All right, good morning. Thank you for being here. We're looking forward to a great day with Keno and Jamie Shrum. And I met them for the first time last night. But you know, when you sometimes when you meet people for the first time, some people after that time you felt like you knew them a long time, and that's the way we felt. And we're looking forward to the material that he's going to present today. Another misunderstanding that I was under, I thought, okay, I don't know how this congregation pronounces it, because I don't know that I've used this word before. Is it Coweta or Coweta? Are we unified on that? Coweta? You know, it's spelled that way. There's not two T's in it, right? English professors, that would make it Coweta, right? But I always have to ask, because the first time I preached at the Lafayette Church of Christ, I was quickly informed it was Lafayette. So Lafayette, Coweta, Coweta, you know, I defer to the home folks on those pronunciations. But they are not from Coweta, Georgia. They are from Coweta, Oklahoma. Coweta. Oh, it's Coweta. The further west you go, is that right? So is it cow or co here? What do we say about Georgia? Is it cow? And it's Coweta there too. All right, forget it. Call it whatever you want. You're from Tulsa. Okay. Well, Keno labored as the minister of the Coweta Church in Oklahoma for 10 years before he accepted a full-time position with House to House, Heart to Heart, and of the School of Evangelism. And we're well acquainted with that school. He and Jamie travel the nation training approximately 45 congregations a year. That's about every weekend, just about. And they've been married for 29 years. They have 2 adult children, and both their son and son-in-law preach in Oklahoma. All right. And I hope you get to know them today. They'll bless your life, and we're looking forward to everything that he has to say. So come on, Keno.
Well, I'm excited to be here from Coweta, Oklahoma this morning. And it's funny because Matt Wallen came to Coweta about a month ago for our gospel meeting, and he got up and he said Coweta, and everybody said he's pronouncing it wrong, and I said, no, listen to me. Coweta, Georgia was here a lot longer than Coweta, Oklahoma. So, but anyway, we'll take whatever. I usually tell people I'm from south of Tulsa because no one knows where Coweta is anyway. So, I'm excited to be here this morning. As Brother Amos said, we just met last night, and you know, when you're going to meet somebody at a restaurant, you don't know what they look like, you don't know who you're going to meet, and so I got on Facebook, and I thought, I'm going to find this guy and see what he looks like. So I found the Woodstock Church of Christ, and I saw him, and he looks just like he looks here. But another Matt Amos popped up when I was on there, and I told my wife, I said, man, he looks different when he's clean-shaven and has his head buzzed short. And she said, that doesn't even look like him. And I go, wait a minute. This one's in London, England. That's not him. So. But we found him last night at the Cracker Barrel. We had a great visit. He and Jamie are from the same parts of the country up around Pennsylvania and Ohio area. And so we had a real good visit and enjoyed getting to know them. We hope to get to know you all while we're here today and tomorrow. Some of you were here, just by show of hands, how many of you were here when Rob Whitaker came the first time? Okay, most of you were. So you're about 4 or 5 years out from that seminar. And we've learned a lot of things since that time when Rob was here. Part of what we do, each Wednesday we have the Reaching the Lost report. And that's where congregations will send us reports of what's going on in the congregation, baptisms, Bible studies, how many compassion cards were written, just different things, and it helps. You're not accountable to us. What that helps us with is, one, it encourages the brotherhood when we send that out throughout the United States. But two, it helps us to know what works and what doesn't work. And in some areas, somebody might come up with an idea, and it's a great idea. And so we're able to adopt that and make it part of the curriculum. One of those we were just talking about is right out here in the lobby, you have a board that shows how many visitors, how many baptisms, how many compassion cards. Okay, you guys started that here. That's part of our curriculum now. Everywhere we go, we have those little slides made up for the accountability board, and we encourage elderships to do that. And so we learn all the time from congregations around the country. So a lot of what you're going to hear over the next 2 days, it may be a little bit different. Even you may have never heard it before, or you may have been doing something, and I'm telling you a little bit different. It's because we've learned better ways of doing it. So just if you were any kind of profession, if you're a lawyer or a police officer, or if you're an accountant or whatever, you have to go to continued education training. And Christianity is no different, right? We're always learning. We're always growing. We're never going to get to a point where we know everything there is to know in Christianity. And so it's the same way in evangelism. Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 through 20, Jesus said, all authority is given to me in heaven and on earth. Now let me ask you this, and listen, today, Saturday, if you got a question, raise your hand, comment. This is very informal. I want to have a discussion about this as we go through today. So feel free to speak up at any time. Let me ask you this. If Jesus said, all authority is given to me in heaven and on earth, how much authority does that leave us? None, right? If he's got it all, we can't have any. And so Jesus said, all authority. Well, if he has all authority in heaven and on earth, then he absolutely has the authority to command us to go ye therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I've commanded you. And here's the part I love about the Great Commission. He says, lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. He's not sending us out on a mission and saying, hey, hope it works out for you, good luck. He's saying, I'm giving you what you need. And if Jesus commands you to do this, and make no mistake, the Great Commission is a divine mandate. We don't get to opt out of the Great Commission. And I think you know that, or you wouldn't be here on a Saturday. You wouldn't be here wanting to learn. We don't get to opt out of the Great Commission. Jesus says he's commanding us to do this. And I always say Jesus never asked for 10 talents from a 2-talent person. If he told you, you have to go do this, you can rest assured he's given you the skills and he's given you the talents to do it. Now, most of you are familiar with this model, I think. Let me see. Well, I got the laser part down. There we go. I think most of you are familiar with this model on the screen. It's the evangelism model. We're going to talk about this in depth tomorrow morning during the Bible class. But it's made up of contacts, prospects, Bible studies, baptisms, new converts, and growing church. Any successful business has a model just like this. They might call it a pipeline. They might call it a flow chart. But you've got to have a way to get from point A to point Z effectively and efficiently. And it's no different with evangelism. We can't go out here all willy-nilly, just, with no idea what we're doing and start evangelizing. We've got to have a plan. We've got to know, how are we going to get people to study with? How are we going to take people from just a mere name and get them down to the Bible study? How do we make that transition? How do we, after we baptize them, how do we hang on to them? Because over the last 30, 40 years, 80% of all new converts fall out in the first 3 years. So how do we shut the back door and hang on to those new converts? These are things we got to know. Jesus tells us how to do it. This is not Keno Shrum's model. This is not Rob Whitaker's model. This is Jesus' model. And tomorrow we're going to look at Jesus involved in every aspect of this model. So we're going to talk about a few things today. And when Rob came, he brought you the concepts. I want to bring you the mechanics of it. I want us to know when we leave here today and tomorrow, I want you to know where you fit into this model. Where's your spot at? Because everybody has a spot. You're not all going to be teachers. Not everybody here is going to do Bible studies, and that's okay. We don't need everybody to do Bible studies. There's a lot of other things that need to be happening, and you'll fit in there somewhere. But if you'll find your spot on this model that Jesus created, and we'll show you tomorrow how he did it, and if you'll find your spot on this model, then you know you can stand before your Lord on that great day of judgment, having done what he told you, commanded you to do. And you can stand there and hear him tell you, well done. So let's go through it and let's look at a little bit of this today. Under each one of these models, or each one of these phases, is a whole host of things that you can do. Now here's something, Matt, that's changed since Rob was here before. We have a modular website, and it's got training videos. It's got over 200 videos on it. It's laid out just like this model. There's a section, contacts, prospects, Bible studies, and you drop it down, and there's all kinds of training videos. When Rob came the first time, we would give a password to, we would give access to that website, one access for the congregation, and then we started doing for all the elders. The elders could have access. Now we'll give this to anybody. So if anybody in here needs access to the website so you can go study and learn, all you have to do is get with your elders or get with Matt, and if they'll send me your email address and say, hey, we want this person to have access, then we'll give you the access to it. It's a very valuable resource when you're growing and learning. So I want to talk about this morning one of the easiest contacts to get into a Bible study. Right? We have to have contacts. You guys I'm looking on the board back there, 309. So let's just say 300 members. You got to have 3,000 contacts a year for this congregation to grow by 10%. The statistics tell us if you want to grow by 10%, you need 10 times that amount of contacts of what the membership already is. So we need 3,000 contacts, and if we could grow by 10% a year, every year for 7 years, we double in size every 7 years. So that's how you grow a congregation. In Coweta, when Rob came to us in 2021, about the same time he came here, we were 22 members, a little small country congregation. We went from 22 to 70 in 3 years, doing just what he taught us in the School of Evangelism. So there's 3 different types of contacts, and you know this. This isn't news, but your first one is cold contacts. That's somebody you don't know them, you have no relationship with them, you've never seen them before, you never talked to them before. Maybe you go out and you knock on their door, and this is the first time you've ever met them. That's the most difficult person to evangelize to, but you can do it. We have great success with door knocking, and we're going to talk about that today too. In fact, I used to hate to door knock. But now I love door knocking because we have such a good success rate with it. Cold contacts, you can evangelize to them, you can convert them, but you just got to put a little extra effort into it because you got to build a relationship with them. I know you probably remember this. I don't know where this saying ever came out. I remember I was worshiping at the North Oak Church of Christ in Mineral Wells, Texas, north central Texas, about 45 miles west of Fort Worth, when I was a child. And I can remember back in the early 80s, the preacher and the elders and the deacons, they all wore a lapel button on their suit. And it said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. We got to get down to that. People, you're not going to study with somebody and baptize them and get them to stay in the church if they don't know that you love them, if they don't know that you care about them. That's what the prospecting phase is. And so we'll talk more about that. But a cold contact, there's a lot of work to be done with them. If you'll put in the time, you'll be able to lead them to Christ. Then we have warm contacts. These are somebody you've already got a relationship with them. Maybe your family member, maybe a neighbor, maybe a co-worker, maybe, somebody you're talking to them, you see them quite regularly, but you're not having gospel conversations with them, right? You're not talking about God, you're not getting into a Bible study. You know them, but that's as far as it goes. As far as Christianity goes, you've never delved into that with these people. They're very convertible. You've already got the prospect phase done. You just got to make the transition. And we're going to talk about how to do that today as well. Then there's a hot contacts. Hot contacts, these people are ready to be baptized. They just don't know it yet. And when somebody comes into your building and sits in your pews, they're a hot contact. You have 2 kinds of visitors. You have visitors that are coming, they're just passing through. Hey, I'm coming from Tampa and I'm headed to, Nashville. And I just happen to pass through Woodstock and I'm just driving through visiting. Okay, that's wonderful. And we're thankful that they're here. But that's not who we're looking for. That's not our goal because we can't evangelize to that person very effectively. Now, I might visit with them and do a little investigation and find out if they're Christian or not. If they're not a member of the church, maybe just something told them to stop in today and they decided they want to stop in and worship. Well, I'm going to find out, are you moving to Nashville or are you just going to visit in Nashville? Maybe if they're moving to Nashville, I'm going to get their information and I'm going to send that ahead to a congregation there that can evangelize to them. Or maybe if they're just going to visit, I'm going to call, wherever they're from, say Tampa, Florida, and I'm going to tell the congregation, hey, here's some people that stopped at our building. If they stopped at our building, they're interested. And so, here's their information and you can evangelize to them when they come back. But if somebody comes in this building and they live in this town, if they live within a 20-mile radius of this building, and they're in this building, they are begging to be baptized. They don't know that yet, but they are, or they wouldn't be here. This is the hottest contact. You guys had, what, on the board, 1,200 and something visitors last year? 85% of those should be in a Bible study. We get 85%. If you'll do what I'll teach you this morning, you'll have 85% of your visitors in a Bible study. And I don't know, there's different Bible study methods. I like Back to the Bible. I know you've got them out here on your table in the front, so I know you guys use them as well. Back to the Bible is a 90% conversion rate. So if you have 85% of 1,200 visitors and you baptize 90% of that, how long does it take to grow this congregation? Now, I know a lot of those visitors were probably passing through, but you get the point that I'm trying to show you here. So let's talk about how to handle visitors. We polled 1,500 people, and we asked them, if you're visiting a congregation, what's the number one thing you want to do? Any ideas what it is? Or what's the number one thing that a visitor wants? Anybody? They want to be greeted. Jamie and I have traveled to some congregations, and we used to, I'm one of those guys, you ever hear the saying, jack of all trades, master at none? That's what I am. I've done a million different things. There was a portion of about 5 or 6 years, Jamie and I owned a bull riding magazine. It was, we were partnered with the PBR, if you know the professional bull riders. So we traveled all over the nation with the Built Ford Tough Series. Wherever the PBR was, that's where we were that weekend. And so we would go in congregations all over the country. And we went in a congregation about this size, maybe a little bit bigger than this. I think it was about 400 people in Arkansas one time. And we walked through the front door with our kids. We kind of meandered around the foyer trying to find the auditorium. It took a little bit, it was kind of a maze to get to it. We finally get to the auditorium, we sit down, we worship, we get up, we leave. Not one single soul spoke to us the whole time we were there. Not one person. We went to a congregation doing just what we're doing today, doing some continued education, a small congregation, and the deacon, there's a deacon there that's on fire. I mean, he's baptizing 4 or 5 people a year, but you got to understand, this is a congregation of about 40 people. So he's hitting his 10% every year, but he's doing it all by himself. The elders aren't on board. The preacher's not on board. The membership doesn't want to work. And this one deacon is working himself into the ground trying to grow that congregation. And so he invites us to come up. The elders say, yeah, whatever. If you want to get them up, that's fine. And so we come up and we do a seminar. And we're up there. It's just a one-day deal. All they would have given him is just Sunday. So we walk in, and he greets us. Not one person speaks to us. And we have the seminar, and we do the Bible class and the lesson, and then we have a potluck lunch, and we're going to do 2 more sessions. And we go to the potluck, and Jamie and I, we go through the line, and we sit down, and not one person sat with us. Everybody goes through the line, and they couldn't get any farther away. It's like we had the plague or something. They didn't want to be anywhere near us. And finally, this deacon comes over and sits down with us. And we visit with him, and then we get done, and we go back in there, and we're doing the second part of it, and half the congregation's asleep. Look, I understand, two things you don't want to be in life is the third verse of a 4-verse song and the speaker right after lunch. It's hard to hold people's attention right after they've eaten. But I lost half the congregation, they're asleep, right? And so then we get done with the sessions, and we go to leave. There's no hanging around and visiting. I mean, people are sprinting for the door. And we get out to the parking lot, and I take my coat off, and I hang it up on a hanger, and I'm hanging it up in the back seat. And Jamie said, Keno, look at the parking lot. And I look, we're the only ones there. They were like the Dukes of Hazzard getting out of this place on 2 wheels. They were flying out of this parking lot. People want to be welcomed, right? They want to feel like they're greeted. They want to feel like you appreciate them being here. Please be friendly. And I know you guys are, because we've already talked to a bunch of you just when we came in. You came and introduced yourself, and so I know you're the kind of congregation that's going to be friendly. But here's the number one thing that visitors want when they show up. They want to sit down. They don't want Gabby gossip pinning them up at the back door and telling them everything that ever happened, They don't want to be patted down and the FBI terror watch list checked. They just want to sit down. And my mom, you guys are streaming this, aren't you? I hope my mom doesn't watch this, but I'm going to tell you something. She's a lovely woman. I love her to death. My mom was born on December 6th of 1951. And if we get a visitor, they're going to barely breach the front door, and they're going to hear everything that's happened in her life since December 6th of 1951. She'll have them there for 30 minutes visiting. And then finally when they come sit down, it's right when the service is starting. And then as soon as the service is over, they're out the door. and we never get their contact information. We don't get to figure out who they are. Mom, who was that? Oh, I don't know. I didn't ask them their name, or she forgot their name. And so let them sit down. They want to sit down. So, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be friendly. I want you to shake their hands. When they come in the door, I want you, hi, we're glad you're here, but let them sit down. I was at American Mission Campaign in June in Grove City, Ohio, and there was a preacher there from another congregation, and he said, my elders didn't believe me when I told them this. He said, they didn't believe me, and he said, one day we had a visitor come in, and there's they just got like 2 rows, but like here's the center aisle, let's say, and there's a seat right here, and you're sitting where the elder and his wife are at. And this couple finally gets up here, and they sit down, and the man looks at the wife, and he goes, whew, that was a lot. And he said, that's when it clicked for that elder. He said, you're right. They just want to sit down. So let them sit down. And here's another reason why we let them sit down. They got something that we want. They got something that we need, and we've got to get it from them. And we can't get it from them if one person has them hemmed up at the front door, and then they're gone as soon as that meeting's over with. So let them come in. Everybody be friendly to them, and let them come in and sit down. So here's the different greetings we could give them, right? The cold shoulder. I already talked to you about that. They come in, they sit down. Not a single person says a word to them. It's a cold shoulder, all right? The next one is a casual nod. You've seen this one before. You're the visitor, right? And I'm just walking by. What's up? We don't want the casual, but we don't want to go overboard. Because overboard's where you got them pinned up and you're asking them all kinds of questions and they feel like they're being interrogated. We don't want that either. What we want is the Christian greeting. And so we're going to talk about how to do the Christian greeting this morning. So we need 2 teams. Brother, is this the only entrance into the building or is there other entrances? Okay. Okay, that's what you want. You want greeters at every end, door greeters, right? And maybe they got a bulletin in their hand or they got some kind of handout or whatever. And all they're going to do is this. When someone's coming up to the door, they're just going to greet them. They're going to say, hi, glad to have you here this morning. Just go right on into the auditorium and sit anywhere you like. There's no assigned seats. Now, if you got doors that don't immediately lead into the auditorium, they may have to walk them down a hallway. Bring them in and show them where it's at so they're not just meandering around lost. Bring them in and show them where it's at. Listen. How many of you right now, by show of hands, are sitting in the same spot you sit in every time you're here? Come on, just be honest. We're at church. We're at worship service. Bible class, whatever you want to call it. Let's just be honest. A lot of you are. Okay, not all of you. A lot of you are. Usually it's about 99%, but, I'm glad you guys are doing like you're doing. When we have a visitor come in, there's no assigned seats. Please, if someone sits in your seat, don't stand there and scowl at them until they get up and move to somewhere else. We've got one elderly gentleman. He's been worshiping at our congregation since 1965. And the pew on the back, he sits on the back on this side, and the pew has got a groove worn in it because his back hurts and he squirms around. And the pew is, for where his belt is, he's worn a groove in the pew from his belt rub, and it's about this long, an indention all polished up where he's rubbed that belt back and forth since 1965. One time, somebody sat in his seat, and he did that. He stood right at the end of the pew and stared at him until they got up and moved. Please do not do that. There's no assigned seats. If somebody sits in your seat, let them have it. And not only let them have that, but don't sit in front of them either, because the pew greeters, they need to sit in the seat in front of them. So you have your door greeters, and usually, your young guys, or, it could be it could be whoever you want, but it gives the young people something to do if they're a door greeter. And so then we need pew greeters. And for a congregation of this size, you're going to need probably, we usually recommend for every 25 to 50 people having one team. So you're going to need probably 6, 7, 8 groups of pew greeters. How many visitors do you get on a Sunday morning usually? 20? 15 to 20? So you're going to need quite a few pew greeters, right? Because you're going to have, sometimes that 15 or 20 might be a husband and a wife or something, but you're going to need probably at least 10. So listen, folks, if you're in here today, how many of you are the type of people you go in Walmart and you can just talk to anybody? Almost everybody. Yeah, I see the fingers pointing over here. Got you a coordinator for the pew greeters right over here. So, if you're here and you're getting trained on this, you need to volunteer. You need to talk to your elders and say, hey, we want to be pew greeters. Pew greeters have one job that they're trying to do. They're trying to get people's contact information. You see these cards right here? What do y'all do? Do y'all have them put these in the offering plate, or do you have them pass it to the center? How do y'all do these? A little of both? When I was a kid, oh yeah, right there, yeah. And then I used to love to be the kid that would get to walk down the aisle and pick up these cards. I loved it. And then somebody got the bright idea of doing something different, put it in an offering plate, and I got fired. So, but visitor comes in. You know, some people have a QR code up on the screen or whatever. A visitor comes in, and here's what we do. We're on announcements, and good morning. We'd like to thank you for being here this morning. If you're a visitor, we'd love for you to fill one of these cards out and stick it on the end of your pew, and someone's going to pick it up, or if you'll scan the QR code, we'll have a record of your visit. You want to know statistically how often that happens? I'm talking across the country, maybe more, maybe less here, but nationwide, statistically, 32% of the time you get their information. Most of them, they won't fill it out. They'll give you a fake name. They won't fill it out completely. You won't have an address. You won't have a phone number. You know, you don't know. You may not get anything at all. 32% of the time. I'll show you how to get it 99% of the time. Matt, do you guys have? Is there? I'm sorry, I have not met anybody here yet. Elders, are there any elders here this morning? Okay, you elders. Do you guys have? Lost my question, what I was going to ask now. Okay, I'll come back to it in a minute. So, visitors bags. Do you guys do visitors bags? You familiar with that? Okay, so when a visitor comes in, you got a bag. It can be anything. You know, I know some congregations will do a little coffee cup with a church logo on there or something like that. I went out to, anybody know where Tehachapi, California is? Tehachapi, California has like 20 million windmills. Probably not that many, but it's like the whole mountain's covered with windmills. And my dad and I were coming back from Fresno, California one time. We stopped in Tehachapi and worshiped on a Sunday morning, and they gave us a little miniature loaf about this size of banana nut bread. That was a treat, right? I was so excited about this banana nut bread. So we left, and the service is over, and I told Dad, I said, we're going to get down to Barstow, and there's a Love Station, and I'm going to stop and get something to drink and eat that banana nut bread. And he said, that sounds good to me. He said, I'm going to eat mine right now. So he started eating his as we're driving to Barstow. And we get to Barstow, I get out, I pump gas, I go in and get a drink, I come back out, and I said, hey, Dad, hand me that loaf of banana nut bread. He just looked at me. I said, did you eat mine too? He said, I couldn't help it. It was delicious. While I was out pumping gas, he ate my banana nut bread. So anyway, it's a great idea. Just keep it out of the hands of somebody you think might eat it. So we're going to use a visitor's bag or something like that and take these out of the pews and put them in that bag. And then here's what you do with it. So I'm going to use you for volunteer. Okay, so what's your name again? Sam? Yes, okay, so Sam, in this instance, Sam has left Tampa and he's going to Nashville and he stopped to worship here, right? So I'm a pew greeter. I'm going to come to the pew in front of him. Hey there, how you doing this morning?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good, I'm Keno. What's your name? Sam. Well, Sam, it's good to have you. Are you from this area or are you passing through? Okay, well, hey, we're glad to have you here this morning, and we hope you enjoy the worship service. Now, I'll probably go get a bag, and I'll get a record of his attendance, but Sam is not who we're looking for. Now, don't be mean to Sam. It's not his fault he's just passing through. We're glad he's here, but Sam is not who we're looking for because we can't evangelize to Sam very effectively. I know you can do it. I've done it states away, but we're talking this morning about how we're going to grow the congregation here in Woodstock, right? So this time, Sam is new to the area. He lives a few houses down, right? So I'm going to come in and, hey, how you doing this morning?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Sam.
Sam, I'm Keno. Are you new to the area or are you passing through?
New to the area.
Oh, where do you live? Just right here close by? Okay, well, we're glad to have you this morning. We've got a gift. I want to go grab you a gift real quick. I'll be right back. And I'm going to go. Now, pew greeters, you got to know where the visitor bags are at. You know, find out where they're at if you don't know. And you're going to get a bag. And then I'm going to come back. Now, this card is in the bag, right? So when I come back, I'm going to pull this card out of the bag, and I'm going to say, Sam, we'd like to give you this gift, and we're happy you're here this morning. Hey, Sam, we're a card-writing congregation. Can I get your name and address so we can mail you some cards? How many times do you think he's going to do it? 99% of the time. Unless he is wanted by the FBI, he's going to give me his name and address 99% of the time. I have never had somebody not give me their name and address. Why? Because I just gave him a gift. And if you give somebody a gift, they're going to give you what you're wanting. And that's all I want is his name and address. Now listen, when Sam comes back next week, you people can be as friendly as you want to be. You can tell him your whole life story and have at it. But this week, the first time, we got to get him in a pew so that our pew greeters can do their job. The pew greeter's job is to get that contact information, and we'll get it 99% of the time. Now, for the rest of the service, my wife and I are going to sit right here in this pew. When the service is over, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say, well, Sam, it's sure good to have you here this morning, brother. And, hey, we got a tradition here. We like to take people out to eat. Can we buy your lunch today?
For sure.
For sure. 50% of the time you're going to get for sure. 50% of the time you're going to get, well, I can't today. I've got something going on, but I appreciate the invite. And then I'll say, hey, let me give you a rain check. When you come back, we want to take you out to lunch. But most of the time they're going to say, sure. And so I'm going to say, well, where do you like to eat? Oh, I don't know any restaurants around here. What, any food allergies? No. Hey, how about let's go here and we'll take them somewhere to eat. Now, elders, listen to this. Your pew greeters are taking these people out to eat, and they're probably doing it every Sunday. And sometimes they can do that as part of their almsgiving, but some people, especially if they're working, they got kids, some people can't afford to take 2 or 3 or 4 people out to lunch every single Sunday. And so we recommend a couple of things. What we did at Coweta, we opened a separate checking account, and we put a few dollars in there, a few $100s in there at a time, and we got several debit cards. And so if I'm the pew greeter, when I go to get his visitor's bag, then I could just come to one of the elders and say, hey, we're going to take him out to eat, and can I get a debit card? And then if he says yes, we go, then great, we go, and we bring that back to the elders that evening. If he says no, I can't go, then we just give it back to him before we leave that morning. Another thing you can do is go get gift cards, the Cracker Barrel or something, it's a little bit harder with gift cards because people have different tastes in what they like, so maybe you got a selection of gift cards or whatever. Or the other thing is that maybe people can take them out to lunch and bring the receipt and be reimbursed for that. That's just something for you elders to kind of chew on and think about, but it can be very expensive taking somebody out every single Sunday. But what's going to happen when I take him out to eat? We're going to get in a Bible study. It may not be today. It probably is not going to be today. But what we're starting to do is build a relationship, and I'm going to teach you some questions that we didn't teach whenever Rob was here the first time. But I'm going to, teach you some questions that is going to have a high success rate of getting him in a Bible study. So that meal is very important. Always eat. I know Rob told you that when he was here. Always eat. And we're not saying that because we're chubby people. We're saying that because that's what Jesus did. How many times do you read of Jesus, he goes to somebody's house and eats with them? Why do you do that? I've always heard this, the fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And that's a fact. People will lower their guard, they'll share things with you, and you start building a relationship around a meal. Now, I'm not taking Sam the first time I invite him out to eat. I'm not going to invite him to my house. He doesn't know me. He may think I'm a serial killer, so I'm not going to invite him to my house. I'm going to take him out to a restaurant. I'm not going to go to his house. He might be the serial killer. So I'm just going to say, let's go to a restaurant and we get to know each other. But then as we visit and we build a relationship and we get to know each other, then when I leave, I'm going to say, Sam, that was a great time. Hey, are you free Friday night? Why don't you guys come over to the house and we'll throw some burgers on the grill and we'll continue to get to know each other and invite them back to the house then. You will be shocked how many Bible studies you'll get if you bring people into your house to eat. And I'll tell you what we do. We have them come into our house and, you come through our front door and we live it's not a very big home, about 1,400 square feet. And you come through the front door and you walk into the living rooms right here in the kitchen, the dining room and the kitchen's right here. And people will always come in and they want to head for the couch or head for the recliner. And I say, oh, no. That's where company sits. Come in here where family sits. And we go sit around the kitchen table. And then my wife, she'll be in there, fixing, doing the final touches on the dinner or whatever. And the ladies will always ask, well, is there something I can help you with? And she'd say, no, it's okay. I got it. Well, now she says, sure. Would you like to fill the glasses with ice? Or would you like to do this or do that? And give them some little job. Because then what happens, I'm at the table and I start working on the husband while she's in the kitchen working on the wife. And we start asking these questions that are very non-invasive, but what they're going to do is transition into a Bible study. Brothers and sisters, I cannot tell you, and I mean this, I cannot tell you the last time somebody came in our house and ate that they didn't end up in a Bible study. It may not have happened that night. Sometimes it does happen that night. Sometimes we're in a Bible study the first time they come in our house. And sometimes it's been 4 years later. But when someone goes on our list and they come in our house and they eat our food, they're on our target list, and we're not going to quit until we have a Bible study with them, if at all possible. And we're not pushy about it. We're not invasive about it. But what we do is we show them love and kindness and compassion and mercy, and we just treat them like a human being, which is sometimes kind of difficult in the world today to be treated like that. But we treat them like we love them. We treat them like family. And if you'll get people to your kitchen table, you'll be shocked how many Bible studies you have. It's amazing how it works. It's not that amazing because it's exactly what Jesus did. And if it worked for Jesus, then it'll work for us. We look at the New Testament. We go through the book of Acts, and you look at the early day church. What was the early day church doing to grow? Look at Acts chapter 2, verse 42. What were they doing? They were getting together daily, weren't they? They were always doing stuff. They were having meals together. They were fellowshipping together. They were studying together. They were spending time together. If we want to grow like the first century church, then we got to do what the first century church did. If we want to be who they are, we got to do what they did. I did a gospel meeting last week, I think it was, maybe the week before, in Wetumpka, Alabama. And it wasn't an evangelism seminar, but it was a gospel meeting that was kind of about the same thing, because it was the theme was evangelism, right? It was reaching, teaching, and keeping. And so we're talking about this, and if we can wrap our minds around what the early day church did, we'll see the same results. One of my topics there was, do Americans today still respond to the gospel? And I was able to show them, yes, they respond to the gospel. We've had almost 8,000 baptisms in the last 6 years from congregations that are enrolled, and those are only the ones we know of. And I know there's a ton of them that don't report them to us. So it's probably been 20 or 30,000, probably, we had 7,000, so let's say we probably had 20,000 baptisms in the country this year. The church is turning around and growing. We're turning around. We're not where we were a few years ago. I'm going to show you some numbers in a little while, but did you know that in 1906, 1 out of every 535 citizens of the United States of America was a Christian? And in 40 years, we cut that in half. By 1946, 1 out of every 207 citizens in the United States was a Christian. And then we cut it in half again, and we got down to 1 out of every 106. In 1953, 1 out of every 106 citizens of the United States was a member of the church. And by 1967, from 1967 to 1973, 1 out of every 84 citizens of the United States was a member of the Church of Christ. Imagine that. You go to Atlanta and you're walking around and you count out 84 people and one of them's a member of the Church of Christ. We were in the federal government. We were in the state government. We were in the local governments. We were on the school boards. No wonder God blessed America. We were the fastest growing religious body in the United States. Since then, it turned around. Now we're about 1 out of every 305 citizens of the United States. We're losing 18,567 Christians on average every single year. Members of the church, we're losing them. They're dying. No one's replacing them. They're falling away. We have on average one congregation every 3 days in the United States closing their doors. 150 congregations a year on average. I was in Town Creek, Alabama at the Hatton Church of Christ just a few months ago. And I was having a meeting with the elders after our seminar was over with, and they said, Keno, we've had 4 congregations in this county shut their doors in the last year. I mean, just think about it. Think about it in this area. Think about the congregations that used to be here. They're not here anymore. And some congregations say, well, we're growing. Well, you're not growing. You're cannibalizing the congregations that are shutting their doors. Listen, if we're not baptizing, we're not growing. We got to be baptized, and that's how the kingdom grows. We've got to be retaining them. That's how the kingdom grows. I see a turnaround of it. I really do. You're talking 20, 30,000 baptisms a year. That's a big deal. That's how we correct that. And we could do it, but we got to get serious about it. I know you guys are serious about it. I think you had 12 baptisms on the board out there already this year. I see you doing it, but I also can see you having 30 to 40 baptisms a year in this congregation without a lot of work. I mean, it could very easily be that amount. And so we're going to look at some other things this morning that's going to help you to meet that goal. And if we can do that, we can turn things around. Did you know that in 1953, the American College Dictionary changed the definition of Christian? If you can find a copy of the 1953 American College Dictionary, they changed the definition of Christian. They had 12 definitions, and I think it was the 4th one. I don't remember which one in order. They said, definition, all right, Christian, definition, members of the churches of Christ. What in the world? There has never been a religious body listed in a major dictionary or any dictionary that I know of as a definition of Christian. If someone looked up the word Christian, they saw a member of the Church of Christ. That's crazy. Why don't we get back to that? Because that's when America was good. That's when things were going good in this nation. We didn't have all the division. Did you know that the Church of Christ grew through the Spanish flu, which was far worse than COVID? We grew through World War I, through World War II. We grew through the Vietnam War, the Korean War. We grew through the feminist movement. We grew through the civil rights movement. We grew through the Great Depression. Every major upheaval that has ever happened in this nation, the churches of Christ grew until the last 40 years, last 50 years. And we've been on a steady decline ever since. Do you have a pen or a pencil with you, something to write on? I would write this number down. And I'll show it to you a little bit later too, but I would write I'm going to give you 4 numbers. I want you to write these 4 numbers down. Write down a number 2. Number 2. And right beside that, write down a number 0. Right beside that, write down a number 6. And right beside that, write down a number 9. So 2069. I would remember that. I would put that in the front of your Bible, and I'd look at that every time you open your Bible and see it. Because the Pew Research Center did a prediction, and they predicted where the church, they've been doing this for a number of years, and you can go back, and this started in the early 2000s. They've predicted every year where the Church of Christ would be at a certain year. And they've been spot on. We're a very predictable people, and they've been spot on every year. And they said by the year 2069, their predictions are that there will no longer be any churches of Christ left in the United States of America if we keep going the rate we're going. On the current rate of decline that we've been on since 1970s, they said there will be no churches of Christ left in America by 2069. You know that about 20-something years ago, 25 years ago, we were about 1.3 million members of the church in the United States. You know how many we are today? About 900,000. They predict that by 2049 we'll be about 250,000. They predict right now we have, I'll show you the numbers after a while. I can't remember. It's around 3,000 churches right now in the United States. So the numbers have been on a steady decline, but here's the thing about those predictions. Predictions only come true if the variables stay the same. But if we change the variables, then the prediction doesn't come true. So we don't have to be extinct in 2069. We don't have to stand before our Lord on that day of judgment and have Him ask us, Keno, why did the church die on your watch? We don't have to do that. We can start working now, and in 2069 the church is thriving again. We're back to being the fastest growing religious body in America. It's not that hard to do. We just got to do it. And you guys got a great start on it. And listen, I understand you don't know what you don't know, right? We were the same way in Coweta. And there's a lot of stuff we've learned since 2021 when Rob was here that's going to make you that much more effective at evangelism. That's what these next 2 days are all about. And I can't thank the elders enough for letting us come in and teach you this, because you're going to see a surge in the growth of this congregation if you put this stuff to practice. So we just talked about how to handle visitors. You will get 85% of your visitors into a Bible study if you'll do that. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. And then we're going to come back in here at the top of the hour, and we're going to talk about door knocking. I know, please don't leave. I promise you, it's not as bad as you think. I love to door knock now that I know how to do it. And you will too when you learn the methods of how to make it successful. So let's take a few-minute break, and then we'll come back. Thank you. Started again, if you'll make your way back in. We got the Razorback fan up on the front row. It's a shorter walk when he goes forward here after a while. Just kidding. My brother's a Razorback fan, so. Earl, Arkansas. Arkansas is a good state. We like Arkansas. It's a good state. There's some good barbecue in Arkansas. So we'll go ahead and get started. Now I want to make clarification. I was visiting with a brother a while ago. When I'm talking about 2069, I'm talking about in the United States. I understand that there will always be God's people. There will always be a remnant of God's people. We're talking about in the United States of America. So we've got to do something to start getting busy. We got to have contacts. So how can we get contacts? One of the ways is door knocking. Now I know you've got your bookmark cards. You should have some. Maybe we need to do it again if it's been a little while. But where you fill out 10 names of people you know that if they died tonight, they wouldn't make it to heaven. And that's how you're going to get a lot of your contacts. Most of them will come from that way. There's some other ways you can get them, and we'll talk about a little bit tomorrow some of that. But right now I want to talk about door knocking because I never believed door knocking could be successful. And we have knocked doors for 20 years, and I've never seen one time have I seen it work. And so in October of 2023, the National Door Knocking Day was on October 7th. Rob had come to Coweta and was training us on some advanced training. And we got done on Friday, and the door knocking was going to be on Saturday. Now, he had to be down in Lawton, Oklahoma that evening. I said, Rob, Lawton's only like 3 hours, and you don't have to be there till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Why don't you stay and knock doors with us in the morning? He said, okay, I'll do that. And I said, but listen, you got to teach us how to do it because it isn't working. We've done it 100 times. It doesn't work. He said, well, Keno, what do you do when you knock a door? I said, I go just like this. Hey, I'm Keno, and this is my wife, Jamie, and we're at the Coweta Church of Christ right down the street, and we'd love to have a Bible study with you. Or I might say, and we would love to invite you to come worship with us. How many times do you think that worked? Didn't. Never. Listen, if you want a Bible study, don't ask somebody for a Bible study. They're not going to let you do it because they don't know you from a Jehovah's Witness or anybody else. They're not going to do it until you've gone through the prospecting phase, which is where you build a relationship with them. You don't just ask for a Bible study. You have to earn a Bible study. And you can't do that when somebody doesn't know anything about you. Now, sometimes that process goes very, very quickly. I've gone from meeting somebody to being in a Bible study to having them in the baptistry within a matter of days. But I've also gone from meeting somebody to prospecting to a Bible study to baptism in about a 4 or 5 year time span. So sometimes it takes a while. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to knock doors. Rob told me that day, he said, Keno, if I was going to tell somebody what not to do, it would be everything you just said. He said, that is the worst tactic for knocking doors. So let's look at this. Turn with me to Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. Here's the reason door knocking doesn't work. Any football fans in here? No football fans? Here's why door knocking doesn't work. If I took one, who is not a football fan? Sam's getting picked on because he's up the front. Sam is not a football fan. If I took Sam and I threw him out on the field in a championship game and I said, Sam, there's 2 seconds left in the game. You're on the 60-yard line. Throw a Hail Mary and save us in this game. He's not going to be able to do it. Why? He doesn't know what he's doing. He's never been trained to do that. You can't tell somebody that has no training to go out and do something and expect them to be successful at it. And we've never had proper training on door knocking. And then we call all our members up here and we say, hey, everybody, let's eat a donut and drink a cup of coffee and we're going to go knock doors. Well, what are we going to do? Oh, we don't know. We'll just make it up when we get to the door. That is not an effective way to door knock. Matthew chapter 10, verse 16, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. We need to be trained. We need to know what we're going to do when we get to those houses. So Jesus provided a method when he taught them how to go out and evangelize. Mark chapter 6, verse 7, he called unto him the 12 and began to send them forth 2 by 2. Why would we reinvent the wheel? Why wouldn't we just do what Jesus said to do? It makes it so much easier. So when I go knock doors, I'm not going to go by myself. It's not a safe thing to do. Especially if I'm a man, I'm not going to go knock on a door and a single woman answers the door and it just puts me in a bad position, right? So I'm not going to go by myself. I'm only going to go 2 by 2. Works very well, a husband and wife. But if you're not married, it could be two guys. It could be two people, two single people from the congregation. However you want to arrange it, but 2 by 2 is what we want to go. It's preferable to always have a woman or a child in case you knock on a door of a single lady. If you're a man, it's not ideal to go 2 men, but you can do it. If you have to go 2 men, if that's the way it partners up, then when you knock on the door, you step back away from the door and you keep that distance. You don't go inside their house, right? So preferably it's a man and a woman. Now sometimes you might have 3 people. Maybe you're training somebody how to knock doors, or maybe you just got an uneven number so one of the team has 3 people. That's okay. When Rob taught us, it was Jamie and I and Rob's wife Nicole. So we would just knock on the door and hi, I'm Keno, and this is my wife Jamie and our friend Nicole, and you introduce and you start from there. But we always want to go out 2 by 2 if possible. That's the way they did it. It's a great way for us to do it as well. He provided them a method. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 14, where no counsel is, the people fall, but in a multitude of counselors there is safety. So we need to know what we're doing, and we need to be a group of us going out. So usually we go knock doors. We'll drop 2 people off on each street, or 2 teams off. So we got a team going down this side of the street and a team going down this side of the street, right? We're there together. It's safer all the way around. It's safer for the people that are knocking doors. Now I say safer. Don't be scared to knock doors. It is so rare that someone's assaulted in any way, shape, or form knocking doors. It's almost unheard of. I know it's happened once or twice, but it's almost unheard of. You don't have to be scared to knock doors. You just have to be smart about the way you do it and take precautions, and you'll be just fine. I've had people yell at me. If somebody opens the door and says, I don't want to talk to you, get off my property. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. I'm just going to get off their property. I'm not going to argue with them. I'm not going to get in a debate with them. I'm not going to talk bad about them. I'm just going to do what they said. I'm going to thank them, and I'm going to leave and go to the next door. I don't care. They don't know me. They're not attacking me. They don't even know what I'm coming there for. I could be coming to sell them Avon or something. They don't know what I'm coming for. So I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm just going to thank them, and I'm going to turn around and leave. Now, remember this when you're knocking doors. Look for no soliciting signs, right? Sometimes a whole neighborhood will be no soliciting. So look for no soliciting signs. So you might walk up and it may be on the door right in front of you, but it may be inside the entryway on one of the side walls, and it's not easy to see. Sometimes it might be down on a rock below the porch swing or something. Sometimes it might be a little sign in a flower bed. So when you're walking up to a house, be scanning that house and looking for a no soliciting sign. Now, the Supreme Court has upheld that we're not bound to that. Religious groups are not bound to a no soliciting sign, but we don't want to do anything that's going to bring any kind of negativity on this congregation. So if they say no soliciting, I'm going to the next house. I'm not going to stop at that house. Matthew chapter 10, verse 7, he said, as you go preaching, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So what are our tactics? We got to have something that we're doing when we go to the house. We got to have a message. What's our message going to be? Well, there's a number of things that we could do. One is compassion cards. You guys have a compassion card ministry here, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit because there may be some things you can tweak that we've learned recently. So we'll talk about that here shortly. But compassion cards. So we're going to go out, and here's what I'm going to do. Hi, I'm Keno, and this is my wife Jamie, and we're Christians in the area, and we're a card-sending church, and we know that a lot of people are suffering today. There's a lot of political division, and the shutdown hurt a lot of people, and people are having financial problems, and we just like to send cards just to encourage and uplift people. Do you know anybody, maybe a friend or a neighbor or a relative or somebody that we could send cards to that would help them just to help make their day and help bring some light into their day? I don't ever say, can I send you a card? But I'm going to say friends, family, neighbors, maybe somebody in your house or a neighbor, or a family member. You'll be shocked how many people say, yeah. My friend right down the road down here, he just lost his dad, and he could use some cards. Get his name. So you got 2 people, right? One of you has the contact cards, a stack of contact cards, and the other one's talking, and you can say, what's your friend's name? Oh, his name's John Doe, okay, and the other person's writing down John Doe. Now, you can go down there and look on his mailbox and get his address, so you just need his name. And you could say, do you mind if I take your name as well, just so we can make a note where we got his name at? Well, now you got 2 contacts. So now when you come back to the church building, you transfer them to the prospect list, as we'll talk about a little later. Now you got 2 people that you can write cards to. One to him for losing his father, we're thinking of you, we're praying for you, and one to them for saying, thank you for caring for your neighbor. We need more people like that in this world. And you start building a relationship with both of them this way. Now, all the cards you mail don't mean anything if you don't do a transition visit. You got to go follow up. We'll talk about that soon in the next session. But you got to make that transition visit. But compassion cards is a great way to get contact information. So look, you go knock on doors. Maybe you knock on 200 doors, and 100 people open the door. And of that 100 people, you get 30 contact cards. That's a 30% success rate. Listen, we're not after Bible studies. I'm not going, my goal is not to go in a house and get a Bible study. Now, they may say that. They may say, I really need a Bible study. And you better believe I'm going to have some with me. And if that's the case, we'll jump in and we'll do it right now. But that's rare. And I'm not going to do it unless they ask for it. What I want is their contact information because, again, I've got to prospect them first. Any gardeners in here? Anybody ever grow anything in here? A couple people? Yeah. So, if I'm a gardener or if I'm a farmer, what would happen if I went out here to the yard in front of the church building and I took some tomato seeds and I just threw them on the ground and walked off? I might get something pop up. Probably not. It's probably not going to have deep roots. It's probably going to be very shallow rooted if it grows at all, right? But if I go and I till up a garden bed, and I get the rocks out, and I prep the bed, and I got it tilled real nice, and I get some seed beds put in there, and maybe I work on some irrigation, and I get it all ready. I got my mulch here, and I got all this fertilizer and everything. Now, when I plant that seed, I've got a high degree of success. That garden's probably going to grow very, very well. Well, that's what prospecting is. You're tilling the soil of their heart. You're taking out the rocks. You're getting all the distractions out of the way. You're preparing their hearts so that when you plant the seed, it'll grow. So that's what we're doing with this. We're making a contact with the door knocking. We're prospecting. We're tilling the soil of their heart with the compassion cards. And then that's going to allow us to be able to plant the seed into a heart that it's going to grow in. House to house. Now, I know you said last night you guys do this one, Matt. You mail out house to house heart. Do y'all mail that out monthly or every other month? Or how often? Quarterly? Okay, yeah. So you take this out and you go to their house and you're going to say to them, you're going to knock on the door, and you got one of them in your hand, right? And you're going to knock on the door. Hey, I'm Keno, and this is my wife Jamie, and we're with the Woodstock Church of Christ, and we mail these mailers out. Have you been receiving this mailer? Now, sometimes they get it, and they're going to say, no, I ain't been receiving it. Because I'll give you an example. We have a lady in Rome, Georgia. She received it for 2 years. She threw it away every time. Never even looked at it. Just, it's junk mail, threw it in the trash. Finally, one day she read it. She went and visited the congregation. Matt Wallen studied with her. She was baptized. She's been a member there for 5 years. So sometimes it takes them a little while. So that's why we suggest mail it to the same route at least for 2 years before you change up the route. All right, so... But you just ask them, do you get this or have you seen this before? Oh, yeah, I get this. And you can start visiting with them about it, Ask them what they like about it. Ask them what they'd like to see in it. Ask them if there's a special article or a subject they would like to see. You get the back page, so, Matt, one of you guys could write an article and submit it to us, and we'll put it on there, and that back page is yours. You can advertise VBS, you can advertise gospel meetings, you can write articles. That's your back page for whatever you want on there. And so, if somebody wants to see something, you can address something that's maybe local to this area, that's a need in this area. And so and so you're just going to ask them, just start building a relationship with them. Maybe they say, no, I've never seen that before. Well, I tell you what, we'd love to send it to you. We're not asking anything from you. We just like to send it out. It's very encouraging. A lot of people love to receive it. Would it be okay if we send it to you for free? You come out, once a quarter, and if you don't mind if we sent this to you, and start mailing it out to them. Get their contact information. Now when you come back, you got their contact information. Again, we're going to write compassion cards. It was so great coming by and meeting you today, and we look forward to you receiving the mailer, and we hope you enjoyed. If you ever see something in there that you have a question about, please reach out. And by the way, if you'd like to come visit sometime, we'd love to see you at worship service or something, just something on the card that you're going to write. The next one we do is prayer. This one works very well. In fact, I'll tell you what happened. Okay, let me tell you how it works. So you go out and you knock on the door. hi, I'm Keno, and this is my wife, Jamie. And I didn't even tell them what congregation we're at. Right? I just said, we're Christians in the local community, and we're just out today. You know, we know there's a lot of, kind of like the cards, you know, we know there's a lot of political divide and a lot of people that are suffering right now, and we just want to pray for people. And do you know anybody that, maybe a friend or a neighbor or relative, or maybe somebody in your house, family member, whatever, do you know somebody that we could pray for? We want to put them on our prayer list, and we just want to get our whole congregation to pray for them and just to lift them up in prayer. Do you know somebody? One of our young couples, they're both in their 20s, they went and knocked on a door, and this lady and her husband were in their 30s, and she said, you could not have come at a better time. She said, my brother needs prayer. Her brother is bad into drugs, he's having legal problems, lives in Oklahoma City, but she said, will you please pray for my brother? And they said, we sure will. And they had a prayer right there. Now listen, this is the other part of this. When someone asks you to pray, or if you offer to pray for somebody, pray right then. Don't say, I'll be praying for you and leave. Pray right then with them. You know, even in whatever situation. Jamie and I, we have a new convert. We worked with her 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And we went through back to the Bible, and she saw it, she understood it, and she said, I can't do it right now. I'm not ready to do it right now. And we tried everything we could to bring her to Christ, and she just wasn't ready. She was married to a guy that was in a gang. She had 2 kids to him. He was murdered shortly after that, and she's had a very, very rough life, but she got a job at the Dollar Tree. And so for the next 4 years, Jamie would go every so often to the Dollar Tree and would speak to her and visit with her and just kind of and every once in a while she'd come worship with us. Very rarely, but sometimes she'd show up. So Jamie would visit with her, and one morning we got up, it was about 6:30 in the morning, Sunday morning, and Jamie gets a text message, and she said, oh, it was Shania. And Jamie said, I said, well, what does she want? She said, I'm ready. And I said, ready for what? She goes, I don't know, I'm going to ask her. So she asked her, and she said, I'm ready to be baptized. And so we said, well, hey, we'll see you at church, at services this morning, and don't come forward. After the service, we need to have another Bible study to make sure you understand what you're doing and all this. So she did. We went through the study, and she was baptized. And she's married another guy. She got 2 more kids now. They're doing very, very well. But her brother got out of prison recently, and while he's out of prison about 2 or 3 weeks later, he stabbed her dad multiple times, almost killed him. And so she's there. She's got her newborn week-old baby. She runs into the bathroom. She lays the baby in the hamper, and she calls 911. And they come, so they're coming, they get him, they're loading her dad into the ambulance. She calls Jamie, she said, Miss Jamie, I need prayers bad, here's what's going on. She said, I don't know if my dad's going to live or not, I don't know where they're taking him, they're just putting him in the ambulance and they're leaving right now. Now, Jamie and I are coming back from Newton, North Carolina. I'm driving 80 miles an hour down I-40, and Jamie said, Keno, we got to have a prayer right now. So she just puts on speakerphone and holds it over there by me, and we pray right now for her. And then we told her we're going to continue to pray for her. And then a few hours later, Jamie checks in on her. Have you heard anything about your dad? How are you doing? And we kept doing that all through, and her dad recovered, and he's doing very well now. But she told Jamie the other day, I think it was last Sunday, she met with Jamie, and she said, when you guys prayed for me, that meant the world. She said, you don't know how much that impacted me in that moment. And she said that was a very scary moment for her, and that really had a great impact on her. So what I'm saying is, if somebody says pray for them right then. Like right then have a prayer for them. And then come back and we'll put them on our prayer list, and we'll all pray for them. So this couple, they said about the woman said about her brother, and so Garrett prayed there with her. So Sunday morning, that was on Saturday morning. Sunday morning, guess who came in and sat in the back of the auditorium during the worship service? They're a few minutes late coming in. But when the service is over, I got done preaching. I always go to the back door while the closing song's being sang so I can shake everybody's hand when they go out. And so they come out, and I meet them and shake their hand. Now, one of the ways that we get contacts is from community events. And so that coming Saturday night, we hired a cowboy. We live out in the country. We've got a little bit of acreage. We hired a cowboy chuck wagon cook to bring his chuck wagon out to our house and to cook a meal. Over the cast iron, over the coals and stuff, chili, cornbread, fried potatoes. And we told all the members, bring somebody with you that if they died tonight, they wouldn't go to heaven. This is going to be a contact creator event. We need more contacts. So I told James and Jennifer, I said, we're going to have this chuck wagon Saturday night at our house. Why don't you guys come out? It'll be a good time. We'll get to know you a little better. They said, we'll be there. So they came out, and we sat down, and we studied, we had the meal with them, and we visited with them. So Sunday, the next day, they're back in services. And I told him after service, I said, James, you're not going to believe this, but the very best cheeseburger within 20 miles of here is at a little Mexican restaurant south of Coweta. Let's run down there and get a cheeseburger. And he said, we're there. So we took off. We went down there, and we ate a cheeseburger together. And then we got done, and I said, why don't you guys come to the house Friday night, and let's throw some burgers on the grill, and we get to know each other more. They said, we'll come. So they came on Friday night, and that's the night we went through lesson 1 with them. I said, you know, guys, I got 2 more lessons in this series. I said, if you think we can get together next week, and Jennifer said, well, why don't y'all come to our house? Now, they're from Laos, right? They're Asian, from the country of Laos. She said, I'll cook some of our food for you guys. And so we went over, and it was great. We loved it. It was a great time. We went through lesson 2. I said, guys, this is going great. Let's get together next week and do lesson 3. She said, well, come back over. I'll cook for you again. So we came back to their house again the next week, and she cooked for us again. And we had the Bible study, and we went down. We baptized both of them when it was done. All that came from a door knocking. The very first door knocking we did by offering prayer for somebody when they needed it. And since then, we've had a number of baptisms and Bible studies as a result of knocking doors. So prayer is a very effective one. I want to tell you a little bit more. Don't let me forget. I want to tell you a little bit more in our last session about James and Jennifer and how they came to Christ. So community service is another one. You go to somebody's house and offer them, hey, we're just going around and seeing if we can help people out. Do you know anybody maybe that's sick and they could use some help mowing their yard? Or do you know anybody that needs a wheelchair ramp built? Or do you know anybody that needs a mailbox fixed? Or do you know anybody maybe they got a little plumbing issue and we could look at it? Or maybe they got a car issue and we could look at it. Don't promise to fix it. We'll look at it. They may need a new engine. You don't want to put a new engine in their car. But if you got somebody in the congregation that's mechanically inclined, maybe they could look at it. Might be something little they could fix for them. Here's one with elderly people a lot of times. Can we help you with any technical issues? My mom called me one day. My dad died about 10 years ago, and my mom remarried a fine Christian man. His wife died about 5 years ago. And they called me, and they said, Keno, can you come over and help us with our TV? This thing is not working. Our satellite deal, none of it's working. And we have done everything. We've Googled it. We've done all the troubleshooting stuff. It will not work. I said, okay, I'll come over. I said, first of all, do you have any batteries? And we put batteries in the remote control, and guess what? It all worked. Just that easy. So sometimes the technical stuff's not that hard, right? But sometimes, my mom calls my daughter all the time. She calls it Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is not working. I can't get on the internet, and our daughter will go over there and fix it for her, and there it's working. So, technical things like that for elderly people, sometimes it's a big help. To you and I, it's like, that's easy. That's something, 2 seconds. But to them, it makes all the difference in the world, right? And so any little thing that you can help somebody with, what it shows them is that you're concerned with the community. You have compassion on them. Why do you think the early day church grew like it grew? Why do you think that Jesus had multitudes following him around everywhere he went? Why was that the case? Because he had compassion. They had compassion. If you look at Acts chapter 2, verse 47, it says the early day church found favor. They had favor among the people. That word favor finds its roots in the word grace. They were grace. They loved people. They showed people that. And because of that, people wanted to be a part of that church. And they grew like crazy. Thousands of people coming. We can do the same thing here. We got to be friendly. We got to go. I would venture to say, and I know you guys are a wonderful group. I'm not trying to say anything negative about this because I tell every congregation this, because this was the case at Coweta, Oklahoma. You could go in a 1 to 2 mile radius of here and knock the doors, and you'll find a lot of people that don't even know you exist. They don't even know you're here. We had that in Coweta. We went and knocked doors. I was just a few blocks away, and I met a man that had no idea we even existed. He didn't know. He knew the building was there, but he didn't know who it was, didn't know what we were about, because we're so inward focused in the church. We'll celebrate ourselves. We'll have things for the youth. We'll have things for the teenagers. And that's great. We should. We'll have things for the young married couples. We'll have things for the parents. We'll have things for the divorced people. We'll have support groups for those that are widowed, those that are widowers. We have the Silver Eagles program. All you people with a little bit of silver right here, you're right there. You're Silver Eagle. We have the Q-tips. You know what a Q-tip is? I learned this in Branson. They call my dad a Q-tip. Somebody has white hair and white tennis shoes. They're Q-tip, Matt. So, the golden oldies, we got programs for everything. We're great at celebrating ourselves. We're great at keeping the aquarium, but we're very poor at fishing for men. So we've got to do, I was talking to a brother a while ago about Jerry Jenkins. He said everything has to go through an evangelism funnel. And so whatever we're doing, whether it's a backpack drive, whether it's a clothing room, whether it's a food bank, whether it's Meals on Wheels, vacation Bible school, graduation banquets, you name them, all these programs that we have in the church, if they don't fit in the evangelism funnel, then we need to get rid of them or we need to modify them. We are not a social club. There are plenty of government programs to help people that are in need of things. That's not what we are at the church. We help spiritual needs. And I'm not saying you can't help people with physical needs, but somehow it's got to tie to evangelism. It does us no good to feed people and clothe people and never talk to them about God. So we need their contact information. If they're going to come up here and pick up food, we need their contact information. If they're going to come out and get backpacks and school supplies for the kids, we need their contact information. We need some way that we can reach back out to that person and start prospecting them. Everything needs to be tied to evangelism. Jesus gave us one mission. Some people say the limited commission. That wasn't given to all of us. One mission. If you can find another one that was given to all of us, I'm all ears because I've never seen it. He said, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I've commanded you." Now you can do all these programs as long as they lead to that. But that's the most important thing we can do is lead lost souls to Christ. And so, whatever it is that we're doing, we need to make it evangelistic. Maybe a backpack drive. They come up the front and you got an awning and they pull under there and you got cones set up and they pull up, they roll their window down and you stick the backpack in the car with the school supplies and they drive off and we never see them again. What we did this year to change it up, we said we're going to do school supplies for all the kids that come to VBS. They're going to get school supplies. We went out to all the low-income housing and the apartment complexes because we knew a lot of those people were struggling. And we said, listen, here's a flyer. Next week is our Vacation Bible School, and on Wednesday night, we're going to give away school supplies to all the kids. And so we're a small congregation. We usually have maybe 20, 22, 23 people at our VBS. And we had 73 Sunday night, 71 Monday night, 70 Tuesday night, and 83 on Wednesday night. That's a huge number for a small congregation. What we did is we went down on Wednesday, we went down to Costco and bought backpacks and we went to the school and got a list for the different age groups, from kindergarten up to 6th grade. We made the school supplies, they're age appropriate, got backpacks that were age appropriate. And now the kids went on the last day, they got to come up the front, get a certificate of attendance, and then they picked up their backpack. We had one grandmother, she told Jamie and I, she said, that made all the difference in the world. She goes, I'm raising 3 grandkids. I don't have the money for school supplies. She said, you have no idea how much that helped us. Have you seen the school supply list? I saw a meme on Facebook this year that said, this year they're even asking for a set of tires for the school bus. That's about the way it is. And if you got 3 or 4 kids, you can't afford to send them to school. And so, we're going to provide those. But see, it's all going to happen through evangelism because at our VBS, when people brought their kids and dropped them off, we got their contact information. Or if you leave your kid, you got to have their contact information. You need it for safety reasons. Even if they stayed, because we had an adult class too, even if they stayed, we still got their contact information. And now we have all these contact cards that we can start prospecting. And so it worked very, very well. Everything has to go through that evangelism funnel. And the last one is new movers. I know you guys are doing this too. Now here's what I want you to understand about new movers. Sometimes you're going to have people that moved, they've been in Woodstock their whole life, but they just moved to a new house. We don't have any way of knowing that. We buy those leads just like your insurance agent would buy leads. We buy those leads and we send them to you as part of the new mover program. Sometimes we might get one, they've been in the same house for a number of years and somehow it got mixed up. That's okay. The main thing is you're making contact with them. So you put together your new movers basket and you go out to the house. I was working with the Alkira Road Church of Christ in Ohio this past summer. And we went out, and Jamie and myself and a young man named Benji from Oak Hill, Rome, Georgia, Oak Hill Church of Christ. And we got our basket, and we went out, and there was a lady and her 2 dogs, and her 2 daughters. She's got the dogs, and the daughters are playing. They're all out in the front yard. And I get out, and I got this basket, and I said, "Hi, ma'am, we understand you're new to the area." She goes, "Me?" She said, "I've lived in this house for 6 years." This is what my response was. I said, "Well, looks like we're 6 years late with your new movers basket." And I gave it to her. She laughed, but we still got in a conversation. So it still worked just as effectively, right? Just make some little joke like that and give it to them. You're still starting a conversation, and that's what you're after because I left with her contact information. I invited her to a community meal we were having that night, and I left her with her contact information. So it still works just as well. So Jesus provided the materials, Mark chapter 6, verse 8 and 9, and commanded they should take nothing for their journey save a staff and be shod with sandals. So you want to be prepared when you go to a house. Excuse me. You want to have the right things. There's things that you need to have with you. You need to have contact cards. You need to be able to write their name down so your partner can write the name down when you're knocking on the door. You got to have contact cards. You need something to hand them. Maybe if someone's not there, to leave them. Maybe a door hanger or house-to-house, heart-to-heart works very, very well. You just roll it up kind of in a tight cylinder and stick it right between the doorknob and the door frame, and it'll swell open and it'll hold itself right there. It's got your worship times. They know you've been there. They already know who you are. Because whenever somebody's new and they come, and this would be for any door knocking, but when someone's new, we automatically send them a copy of House to House, Heart to Heart as soon as we find out they're new to town. 2 weeks later, we send them a postcard inviting them to come worship with you. And then hopefully 2 or 3 weeks later, you're doing a new movers follow-up visit with them. So 3 times, they're going to know who you are by the time you get there, right? So when you go knock on doors, you leave these things if they're not there, or you leave something with the person you knock the doors with. Now listen, door knocking, the front porch is not the place to get into a theological debate with somebody. We're not going to do that. I was knocking doors, and I had a lady that was new to knocking doors, and she was with Jamie and I, and we knocked on a door, and the lady said that she was, she wasn't Mormon, was she? Church, I think Mormon. Yeah, I think she was. And she said, hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much, but I'm Church of God Latter-day Saints, Church of Christ Latter-day Saints, or whatever it is. And she said, and this lady that's with us, she said, so do you want to follow a church that's going to lead you to hell, or do you want to learn about the real church? I said, ma'am, have a great day. I'm sorry, have a great day. And we went out. I said, we got to have a training session before we go to the next house. That's not the place to get into that kind of debate with somebody. You know, we're going to be very kind and very considerate when we're there. And so we're going to take stuff to hand out. Provide neither script for your journey, neither 2 coats, nor shoes, nor stays. So be prepared, but don't be over-prepared. You don't want to show up with an armload of stuff. You don't want to have a 36-pack of water from Costco slung over your shoulder when you show up to the door. You don't want to have, just tons and tons of stuff. Just take what you need and nothing more. Take a bottle of water if it's hot outside, Take your contact cards. Take something, a door hanger or something to put if they're not there. Take a pen. Just a few things like that. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. Take a copy of Back to the Bible with you just in case you run across that person that wants to have a Bible study. And take a couple of Bibles with you. Maybe each of you have a Bible, just in case you get that rare chance that you get into Bible study. But other than that, you don't need to take a whole lot of stuff, right? What about if the person offers you a drink? We've had people before offer us a bottle of water. Hey, guys, it's hot out there. Here, take a bottle of water with you. And you go, we'll take it with us. It's a new bottle. There's nothing wrong with it. Take it with you if you want to. And I'm not going to probably take a drink of something they poured. I don't know anything about them. I might accept it and then just when I get down the road later, dispose of it or whatever. But should be kind, be considerate. Be thankful, appreciate their time. Don't wear out your welcome. You remember that when you was a kid? Mom, can I go over to someone's house? Yeah, but don't wear out your welcome. Don't go over there and stay all day. Now, if they're talking, then go ahead and stay and visit. But don't keep going with the conversation because they got other stuff they're trying to do. Jamie and I went to a lady's house, again, at Grove City, Ohio. We knocked on the door. Boy, I heard a ruckus in there and dogs barking. And she finally comes to the door, and she's trying to keep one dog back with her foot, and she got another dog under her arm. She's caring for her sick mother-in-law. She got a lot of stuff going on. And I kind of at first felt bad about knocking on the door because she seemed very busy. But we got to talking, and we're about 2 minutes into it, and she said, I'm looking for a church home. She goes, I've got to find a church home for me and my daughter. Well, bingo, she just became one of the few. Many are saved, or many are called, but few are chosen. She just became one of the few. That's a hot contact when they say, I'm looking for a church home. And so we started visiting with her, and we invited her to a community meal that Friday night. And we talked for probably 20 minutes to her. I would normally never stay that long at a door, but she kept talking, and so we're going to stay there and build a relationship with her. We left, and the next day we came back by and we knocked on the door and we said, Angelia, we're sorry to bother you again, but yesterday we invited you to the meal, and I just wanted to give you a little card that has the location and the times and all that. And we're talking, I said, do you have a Bible, Angelia? She said, no, I don't have a Bible. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, we look forward to seeing you Friday night. And we left. Friday morning, we'd been there all week, hottest week of the year in Ohio. We're sweating like crazy, and we got to leave from there and go to Syracuse, New York. So Jamie said, we got to go to the laundromat. So I called Rob, and I said, Rob, we're not going to be there this morning, Friday morning. I said, we got to go to the laundromat, but we'll be there this afternoon. So I dropped Jamie off at the laundromat, and we got a Bible for Angelia. So I'm going to take this Bible and run it by to her real quick. Normally I wouldn't go by myself, but we'd already met her several times. You know, we're comfortable with her. So I go back by myself. I drop Jamie off. I just go to the door. She answered the door. I said, hey, I'm not going to stay. I just wanted to real quick give you a Bible. You said you didn't have one. I wanted to leave you this Bible. She said, Keno, I will be there tonight to that meal. So I go back to the laundromat. Now, this is a side note. I go inside the laundromat. There's 10 people in there. Jamie has already talked to 7 of them and invited them to the meal. She's given them cards, and she's already made contacts with 7 people in there. And so we talked to the other ones, and then that evening we get back to the meal, and guess who shows up? Angelia shows up. She hits it off. She makes friends. She loved it there. Thursday night they started a Bible study with her. Sunday they did lesson 2 because she didn't want to wait a week for the next one. Then a few days later they did lesson 3. She's baptized. I talked to Tony, one of their deacons, 2 days ago. He said, Keno, she has not missed a service. She's there every single service. She texts Jamie. We were headed somewhere about 3 weeks ago. I think we were going to Virginia or somewhere, and she texted Jamie and said, I love it here. I'm so glad you knocked on my door. This is my home. I love it here. All from a door knocking. So door knocking works. All right, we got to take the materials. Jesus gave them a manner. He said in Matthew chapter 10, verse 12, when you come into a house, salute it. So we're going to say nice things about the house. I want you to remember this. Assume they see you. Assume they hear you. How many of you have a Ring doorbell or something similar? Probably most of you do. Most everybody does. When you get within any kind of distance of that house, they're seeing you and they're hearing you. That's not the time to say something about their dog being ugly or their grass being too tall or you know. So we're going to salute the house when we go up to it. Man, Jamie, look at their flower bed. They got a nice flower bed. That really looks nicer. I'm going to make some kind of, it's a beautiful house when I'm standing out there waiting for them to answer. I'm going to say something kind about the house. I'm going to assume they hear me. I'm going to find common ground. How many of you are veterans in here? Anybody a veteran ever served in the military? A few of you did? You know, when I go up to a house, I served in the military, so when I go up to a house, I'm looking on the back of their pickup. Do they have an Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, Space Force? I guess we got to include that one now. Space Force. Do they have a sticker on the back of there, right? I'm going to find something I can connect with them on. If I see something about a veteran, when they open the door, I'm going to say, hey, I saw your Go Army sign on the back of your truck. Are you a veteran? Yeah, well, I am too, and now we got something to talk about. If you can connect with somebody in the first 90 seconds that you meet them, your chances of making a sale go through the roof. That's in any kind of sales. Isn't that what we're doing? We're trying to convince them that what we have is what they need. They need salvation, so your chances go through the roof. Maybe you see maybe you see toys and you know they have kids, and you can compliment their kids, or they have a nice flower bed. You can compliment their flower bed. In Grove City, almost every house had a flag, a U.S. flag hanging up. I knock on the door, they'd open the door. I say, I love your flag, man. We need more patriotic people in this country. That's neat. I like that, and it starts a conversation. So look for something that you can connect with them on. Keep your conversation short, 2 or 3 minutes, unless they want to continue talking. Maybe it's a pet, toys, symbols, whatever it is. And he gave them motivation. Matthew chapter 10, verse 13, if your house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. Romans chapter 10, verse 15, and how shall they preach except they be sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things. So when we come into a house, we're going to compliment the house. We're going to compliment the person. We're going to bring glad tidings to them. It's going to be a very positive experience. And if they open the door and they tell us to leave, we're just going to very politely say, thank you, and we're going to turn around and leave. And it's just that's what it's going to be. We're not coming to offend them. We're not coming to debate them. We're not coming to argue with them. We're not coming to do any of that stuff. And it doesn't matter how verbally abusive they might be to us. That's fine. That's not what we're there for. We're just going to thank them and turn around and leave. Matthew chapter 10, verse 14, and whosoever shall not receive you nor hear your words when you depart out of that city, shake off the dust of your feet. It's no big deal. They're not rejecting you. They don't know you. They're rejecting Christ. They may be rejecting whoever they think you are, but they don't know you, so don't take it personal. It's nothing personal against you. Don't worry. You don't have to fear them. They're not going to come out and beat you up. Just, here's what I do when I knock on a door. I walk up, I knock on the door, or I ring the doorbell, and then I step back off the porch. I get about 6 feet between me and that door. I don't want them to feel like they're being confronted. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to step, usually I'll step just a little bit to the side, and I just stand like this. And they open the door, and I'm not going to go any closer unless they ask me to, if we get to visiting. But I'm going to stay plenty far back away and give that distance. A lot of people don't want somebody in their bubble, right, in their personal space. So I'm going to make sure they have plenty of personal space when I knock on their door. These are some results. I want to show you these results. I don't know if you can see those. Those numbers are a little bit small. This is in Granbury Street Church of Christ in Cleburne, Texas. So on the left is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We knocked a total of 2,831 doors. Now, this is an American mission campaign. I don't know if you're familiar with an AMC, but during COVID, we couldn't go overseas as easily, so we started the American mission campaign. So once or twice a year, we go to a congregation somewhere in the United States, and you'll have 100 to 200 Christians from all over the country will descend upon that congregation for a week. And we spend the whole week training and knocking doors and having community meals and doing Bible studies and writing compassion cards. And every congregation, when it's over, when we left Alkira Road in the 3 months following, they had 18 baptisms. So it's just to help boost the congregation in a certain area. So this one was in Cleburne, Texas. Now the next section is people talked to. So on Sunday, we knocked on 342 doors and we talked to 135 people. We collected 40 cards. That's a 30% success rate. Elders, would you be excited about a 30% success rate? I would be thrilled about that. That's a good number. If we could get 30% success rate, that's a wonderful number. And so we're not asking for Bible studies. We're just trying to get their contact cards. That day we talked about cards. We said, we're a card-sending congregation, and we like to mail out some cards to somebody. And that was the method that day. The next day, the method was prayers. We had a 25% success rate. The next day was a house-to-house mailer. We had a 20% success rate. The next day was community service or benevolence. We had a 19% success rate. I'll still take it. If I can knock on 100 doors and get 20 contact cards, I'll take it all day long. But look at Thursday. I don't know if you could see that or not. Thursday, we knocked on 123 doors. 48 people answered the door, and 45 of them gave us their contact information. That's a 83% success rate. That's amazing. Why was that one so much better? Because it was the new mover day. It's just like with a visitor basket. If I give you something, you're going to give me something. If I give them a visitor basket, they're going to give me their contact information. And listen, it's not just this congregation. It's everywhere we go do this at. So the numbers don't lie. The numbers are what they are. You can't argue with statistics. This is the way it goes. So we ended up at the end of the week, we knocked on 2,831 doors. We mailed out 1,923 compassion cards. Now listen, on your compassion card team we're going to talk about in a little bit, that's everybody, all ages, right? Even the little kids. We had a group of probably 15 kids, about 4 years old, 5 years old, writing with colored pencils. What would that do for you if you were battling cancer or something and you got cards from a little kid saying, I love you and I'm praying for you, written in little kid handwriting with crayon or with a colored pencil? It's amazing the effect that has on people. So in this instance, we ended up mowing 12 yards for people. We had 89 visitors came to the community meal, and 20 people attended services that next Sunday. 20 of the people that their doors were knocked on. That's great success. This one is Troy, Illinois, Collinsville, Troy, Illinois. Pretty much the same numbers, 23% on the 23, 21, 14, 17. You get to the new movers day, 66%. 25 visitors came from the community that night, and 7 visitors were there on Sunday morning. That was 1,932 doors knocked, 683 people talked to, and 149 cards collected, contact cards collected. This is the Cary Church of Christ in Cary, North Carolina. Again, 70% on Thursday. The new movers is a great way to make contacts. You just got to do it, and it's very, very successful when you do it right and you say the right things. So you can see how it's worked. Door knocking will absolutely yield contacts. You're not going to walk away from a door knocking with a Bible study. Very rarely. Very rarely are you going to walk away from a door knocking going down to the church building and baptizing somebody. But that's not what you're there for. That's not your goal. Your goal is to get contact cards. Then we can prospect them into a Bible study. So if you know what your goal is, you know what the method is, you know what to take with you, you know what to not take with you, you know what you're going to say when you get to the door, you have great success. Here's what I would advise you to do the next time you do a door knocking. I would all come up here and meet at the building about 30 minutes before you got to knock doors. I would determine what's our method today. Are we using prayer? Are we using cards? Are we using the mailer? Are we using the new mover? What's our method today? Community service. And then I would spend about 30 minutes and I would do mock door knocking with each other. One of you be behind the door and one of you knock on the door and practice what you're going to say to where you're very fluid when you get to the door. You know exactly what you're going to say. Listen, you need to be Navy SEALs when it comes to evangelism. You need to know what your job is and be trained very, very well. And that takes trial and error. It takes practice. And I'm a lot better at knocking doors now than I was 10 years ago. I'm a lot better at knocking doors now than I was 5 years ago when Rob taught us how to knock door. Because the first time I went up, I was still a little sketchy. I was still a little nervous, and I was still jumbling over my words a little bit. But after you do it time and time again, it's just like anything you do. You practice, you get better at it. You get very effective at it. You get confident. And when you stand before somebody and you're confident, then they respect that. They respect that, and you're going to see great results from it. On the board is my email address. Matt's got my number. I've got cards up here if you want a card. Contact me on anything you have questions. If you guys get together and you're going to knock doors one Sunday morning or Saturday morning and you got a question, call me and we'll talk about it. We'll have a Zoom meeting, whatever. I'm here to help you. However I can, I'm here to help you and to help you to continue to grow. Let's take a few-minute break. We're going to come back. Hang with me. We're going to come back and talk about compassion cards. We're going to go to lunch, and then I promise you want to come back for the last session, because we're going to talk about Bible studies, and it's going to be a great session. You're going to learn some things on it. So let's take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back in and start the next one.
Our next session before lunch. Got an announcement to make before we continue. Ara Villacorta fell last night and broke her ankle. And she was at the hospital till about 3 a.m. this morning. And it's going to require extensive surgery, maybe even a pin, whatever. But she is at Zane and Megan's house now. And she's going to need a lot of support. I'm sure most of you are aware of her home situation. It's not the best. But if you could reach out to her and encourage her, it would really be good, and she would appreciate that so much. We're going to break somewhere a little bit before 12 for lunch, and it's a catered lunch. So plan to come downstairs, and we'll fellowship there for a while. And we're going to turn it back over to Keno.
Right. We'll do one more, and we'll have lunch. I used to be a professional eater. I don't know if y'all know that or not. I never won any trophies or nothing, but, buddy, I could put it away. I don't know what's happened lately. I can eat half as much and gain twice as much. But anyway, I do like to eat. and you know, if you read in your Bible, and I don't remember if it's in either Second Opinions or Hesitations, it talks about what great cooks the ladies in the Church of Christ are. And so, no, but we enjoy meeting brethren around the country and having meals together. And I appreciate you being here today. I know a lot of you got a lot of stuff going on. Kids got sports, you know, there's it's your only day off work. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but by you being here, it shows how serious you are about evangelism. We can grow this congregation. This is a nice congregation. It's a big congregation. I had somebody say to me one day, they said, oh, I go to a small congregation. It's about 130 people. I said, 130 people? That's a huge congregation. This is a giant congregation, and you guys can really make an impact on the area around you here. So let's talk about compassion cards. Jude 22. Excuse me, Jude 22. And of some have compassion, making a difference. So when we're talking about, you know, the model, we've got contacts, prospects, and that's what we call the bringer section. This is getting us from zero to the Bible study. So I was talking to a congregation in Alabama probably 6 months ago, and I was talking with an elder, and he called me, and he said, Keno, he said, it's not working like you guys told us it would. We're not growing. And I said, well, brother, how many baptisms are you having? He said, we're not having any. And I said, okay, well, how many Bible studies are you having? He said, we're not having any. I said, let's just start at the top of the model. How many contacts do you have? And he said, well, that's the part I didn't want to talk about. And I said, well, let's just talk about it. So I said, now, this is a congregation of 220 people. They need 2,200 contacts, right? I said, how many contacts do you have? And he goes, well, he said, we got 2, and I know we need 20. I said, 20? You need 2,200. If you're going to grow, you got to have 2,200 contacts. So we had a conversation about all the different ways you can get contacts. But once you have those contacts, you got to prospect them. You have to do something to till the soil of their heart. I was talking to another congregation, and the same thing, they weren't growing. I said, let's go to the model. How many contacts you got? Oh, we got, 1,000 contacts. Okay, great. Tell me about your prospecting. Well, we don't do that. We just go straight into the Bible study. Listen, people, Jesus created this model. Do it the way he did it. And I'm going to show you that in the morning. I'm going to show you where Jesus was active in every part of this model. And we got to do the same thing. And if we do it, we're going to be effective at it. So most of you are not going to be teachers, and that's okay. Bringers is where we need you at. It does no good to have teachers. It does no good to have a baptistry if we don't have any contacts. It does no good to have contacts if we don't have people that can prospect those contacts. The number one way that we prospect and we see the best success with is through compassion cards. So there's multiple categories: get well, sympathy, praying for you, thinking of you, visitors, new movers, restoration, new converts, thank you, encouragement. There's all different kinds of areas that you can, cards for different categories. And one of them that we sometimes overlook is restoration. We've got a new Bible study. It's not new. It was real popular in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, but went out of print in the 50s, and we just brought it back into and bought the rights to it and started reprinting it just about a month and a half ago. And it's a very effective study for restorations. I would encourage you to look around you and think, who's not here that used to be here? And write their name down on your list, and let's start reaching out to them. Let's restore them. We start that prospect with cards. So this is your prospect list. This is on the website. I don't know if you guys use this or use something similar, but this is on the website under the prospect section. It's you can edit it. It's in an Excel or Word form. I don't remember, but you can edit it. I would suggest up there where it says prospect list, I would suggest changing that to community list or card list or neighbor list or something like that. Just in case you're writing cards and somebody that's on that list happens to come visit, you don't want them to think, well, what am I being prospected for, right? So we just put that on there so you know what it is, but change that to something different. Okay, so you have, say, 10, 15 visitors in a week, on a Sunday. So you may have several pages of this. Leave, a number of spots blank because those visitors go to the top of the list. So if we have an elder that comes up here, Matt delivers a wonderful sermon, maybe somebody comes forward for prayers or whatever. We take care of that. After that's over with, then one of the elders comes forward and they take that, they say, everybody pull out your contact list, your target list, your bookmark that's got those names on there. Do we have anybody within a 20-mile radius of this building that's suffering from cancer or that's lost a loved one or that's sick or that's, injured or what, that's got a new baby, that's graduated, somebody that's just moved to the area, whatever, and you're going to raise your hands, and then you're going to have some deacons that are going to have some contact cards, and they'll go hand you those cards. And you're going to tell you, hey, we need your person. We need their name and address. If you can get a phone number and an email address, that's even better. But we need a name and address, and we need it no later than Wednesday night. Because Sunday, we've got to write contact card or compassion cards, rather. So this is just zooming in on one of those boxes. So we're going to use the example of Bob Smith. Bob Smith is a co-worker of Mary Jones. So Mary Jones is the person that said, I want to ask for prayers for Bob Smith. She's the one that brought his name. Now listen, when you get a contact card and you put Bob Smith's name and address on there, write your name on the top of it. If you're the one turning in that name, write your name on the top of it. That way, if there's any questions, we can come to you. We know who's the one that gave the name. Also, when it comes time to make the transition visit, if there's any way, I want Mary Jones going with me to do that transition visit because Bob Smith's already going to know her. So it makes it much easier to get into the door when I do that transition visit. So we need the name on the top of the card. Mary Jones is going to put her name on there. Okay, the description is cancer, so we know what we're going to write the cards for. So you're going to have team leaders. How many card writing teams do you guys have? Do you have teams right now, or you currently have card writing teams?
We have different teams, but we have one compassion card team.
Okay. How many people's on that team? Like, we talking 100? Okay. Let's revamp the compassion cards. We need a minimum of 100 to 150 people on a compassion card team. So, everybody. If you're here right now, you're on that team, right? I'm talking even this little guy back here on the team. Everybody's on the compassion card team. The only way it works, they got to get overwhelmed with love. So, now listen, you got different teams. You got a team that maybe is sending birthday cards to the members, get well cards, anniversary cards. Those are wonderful things, but those are not the compassion cards. The compassion cards is its own separate team, and we need a minimum of 100 to 150 people on that team. So, sign up, say, hey, we want to do it. Let me say it to you like this. Jesus came to this earth. He left the glory of heaven. He came to this earth, and he gave his life for us. Can we spare 10 minutes of our Sunday to go back there and write some cards? Because what happens when you've done that, you have now fulfilled the Great Commission. You can stand before your Lord knowing you've done what he commanded you to do. This is a vital part of evangelism. This is a vital part of growing this congregation. So everybody that's in this room, guess what? You're compassion card writers now. And you may be on another team doing some other cards. That's fine and dandy. But we probably need, I don't even know how many's here today. Did anybody get a count? There's probably maybe 40, 50 in here. So we got to tell our neighbors tomorrow. I'm going to repeat this tomorrow. We need more people on the compassion card team. I would love to see 300 people on there, but we need at least 100 or 150. We have got to overwhelm these people with love. So we got, say, 100 people on our team. We're going to break that up into three teams. Let's break it up in three teams. 33, 33, and 34, or however the math works out. I graduated from Oklahoma. Don't hold my math against me. So we've got it broken up in teams. So you have team leaders over each team, but you have a coordinator over the compassion cards. That coordinator, and you can maybe have an assistant coordinator. Elders, pick whoever you want. What we see works very well is to let a woman be over that. And here's the reason. It does nothing to usurp authority over a man. And it gives the women something to do because the women have a vital role in evangelism. And so it gives the women a place, and they're very good at it. Because most men get sidetracked, and we're horrible at doing this. The women will keep up with the inventory. They'll pick the cards. Listen, your coordinator picks the cards. We don't stick a card rack out there and say, everybody go get a card, because you don't know who's going to pick a card for what. You want it to be relevant. So what we'll do is we put all this information on this list, and then we'll go in your card writing room, wherever it's at, and on the tables we'll lay out multiple copies of this prospect list that's got, so Bob Smith's the first one, and Sally Joe's the next one, and John Doe's the next one, and it's got listed out, and then their cards are already stacked in that order. So now all I have to do as a card writing person is come in, I pick up the first card, and I look at the first name, and that card, I just write my message on there. How many of you knew Larry Acuff? Anybody in here know Larry Acuff? What a wonderful evangelist, right? Larry said one time, he said a guy had a business, and his business grew, and he was able to build a big new warehouse and office front, and it was a great big business. And so his friend wanted to congratulate him, so he sent him a plant, and just to congratulate him on his new business. So the man gets the plant, the florist delivers it, the man gets the plant, and he pulls the card out, and he opens it up and looks at it, and it says, "Rest in peace." And he thought, now what in the world, why did he send that? So he called his buddy, he said, "Why'd you send me a plant that says rest in peace?" He said, "I didn't." He goes, "Hang on, I'm calling the florist." So he calls the florist up and he said, "Listen, I sent my friend a plant because of his new business, and you put a card in there that says rest in peace." And the florist said, "Oh my goodness, that means there's a funeral going on today with a card that says congratulations on your new location." We got to make sure the cards are relevant to whatever the situation is. We got to make sure the cards are relevant to whatever the situation is. So it's best just to have one or two of the ladies pick those cards and lay them out. And then all we have to do as card writers, all we have to do is just take the card, write it. Don't put your return address on it. Don't put your home address. Now, used to, when Rob came, we would say that. Put your return address. We tell you, don't do that anymore. We've learned that's not a good idea because we don't know who these cards are necessarily going to. So put the church address as a return address. Have a stamp and just, write your address on there and take it up and stamp the church address. And then your team leader, you turn these cards into your team leader. The team leader will get these cards to the coordinator, and the coordinator will make sure they get mailed over the next 3 weeks. Divide up 21 days by how many cards you have. You're mailing, 3-4 cards a day, and mail them out over the next 3 weeks. Every day when that person, very systematically, every day when that person goes to the mailbox, they are overwhelmed with love from people they don't even know. And elders, I know how I served as an elder for 7 years at Coweta. I know how elders are thinking about the dollar signs. They're thinking, Keno, you're crazy. That's a lot of money. You can put 3, you can actually put 4, but 3 work very well. 3 cards in one envelope. So you cut your postage by 2/3. So there you go, some savings for you.
That's Hannah's cards.
Hannah's cards, yeah. Anybody in here work for the post office? Okay, I won't offend anybody with this then. The price is getting higher and the service is going down, right? So take advantage of that. Stick 3 cards in one deal, and that way you just have to be, your total postage for one stamp has to be under an ounce. So you'll be all right with that, and that'll save you some money. Now, let's keep going, and I'll bring another point out in just a minute. Who goes on the prospect list? These are non-Christians. These are sinners. These are people that are lost. These are the people on your bookmark. These are people that are sick, that are having surgery. Let me just ask you this. Does anybody in here right now, do you know somebody within 20 minutes of this building, which I know around the Atlanta area, that could be like a half a mile, but within 20 minutes of this building, do you know anybody that has cancer? Anybody in here? About 6, 7, 8. Okay, right there. There's 8 contacts right there. That's 8 contacts right there. We should be sending cards to them, and that's 8 contacts. Does anybody know anybody in here that's in the hospital or has recently been in the hospital? Again, there's a number of them. How about somebody that's sick? Do any of you know anybody that's lost a loved one in the last few weeks? See, so right there, this is what we're doing. This is where we're getting our contacts at. All of these people need compassion cards. We need to overwhelm them with love. We had a lady, she's an instructor at Oklahoma State University. And during COVID, they were working virtually. And so anyhow, one of our young people was going to school at Oklahoma State, and this lady was one of the instructors. And she lost her mom. Obviously, she's very close to her mom. And so our young person came back and said, "Can we put so-and-so on the compassion card list? She just lost her mom." So we did. we're a small congregation. We sent her about 47, 48 cards, all right? And that's how many we had, so that's what we sent her. About 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, she showed up on a Sunday night, and she came in and worshiped with us. And afterwards, I was visiting with her, and she said, Keno, she said, I got 47 cards from this congregation. I don't know anybody here. I only know one person here. And she said, do you know how many cards I got from the place I worship at? And I said, I don't know. And she's teared up. She said, not one card. Nobody at my church sent me one card. And I got 47 cards from people I don't even know. Here's the thing about compassion, folks. It's countercultural to our world today. People don't know how to process that. Why would somebody do this for me? I was talking to a new convert last night. We baptized him just a few weeks ago. A new convert, and he texted me last night, and he said, Keno, he said, I'm struggling with some things, and he said, are you going to be here Sunday? I really need to talk to you. And Michael John's an elder there at Coweta. I said, no, but Michael John will be there, and if you want to talk to him, I said, now you can text or call me, but if you want to talk to somebody in person, Michael John will talk to you, and I'll be back Tuesday. And I said, let's go to dinner Tuesday night, and let's visit, and we'll talk about whatever's going on. And he said, I don't understand what I did to deserve what God has given me, the people around me that love me so much. He says, I just don't understand that. He came from a rough background, a rough life, you know. I mean, and he said, he can't comprehend it. People don't understand that kind of love. And when you send someone 100 cards and they don't even know you, they're going to say, why would you do this? They're going to want to know why, and they'll show up here to find out why. They're going to want to come meet you. And you're going to show up their house, and you're going to do a transition visit. So, Bob Smith has cancer, and I'm going to go to Bob Smith's house, and I'm going to take Mary Jo with me, and we're going to go knock on the door, and I'm going to say, hey, Bob, I'm Keno, and I'm with the Woodstock Church of Christ, and we've been mailing you some cards, and we know you understand you have cancer, and you work with Mary. She told us about it, and he's going to say, well, come in the house, and he's got all these cards around on the mantle and out on his kitchen table. He'll probably show you where your card's at when he learns your name. And he gives us an opportunity to start visiting with him. Maybe we could say, he's going through chemo and radiation, and he can't mow his yard, and maybe his grass is a foot high, and you can say, hey, that we understand you're going through some treatment. Would you let us at Woodstock take care of your yard for the rest of the summer for you while you're going through this treatment? Or just something like that you can offer them. And then when you leave, you stay a few minutes, you say, well, would it be all right if we have a prayer? And you pray for them. And then just tell them, hey, Bob, I'm in the area pretty often. Could I stop by next week and have a prayer with you again? Sure you can. I need all the prayer I can get. And maybe a few other members could go over and start praying with Bob. And the next thing you know, Bob has experienced love like Bob has never experienced before in his life. And then you have him in a Bible study, and then he's sitting in your pews as one of your new converts. This is what those transition visits are all about. They're so important that you make a transition visit. It's so important. So those that are sick, those that are having surgery, those that have lost a loved one, those that you've delivered new movers baskets to, those that have visited your service, those that have been baptized. Okay, here's one Christian we will put on there is a new convert. What happened to Jesus right after he was baptized? He was led into the wilderness to be tempted, right? Matthew chapter 4, he was led into the wilderness to be tempted. I tell every new convert, when you're baptized, Satan is going to come after you like you can't even imagine. You've never been on his radar before. Now you're his prime target. He's coming after you. And you need to know you have a family here that loves you, and we're going to support you. We're going to help you. Whatever you need, we're here for you. And we explain that. Well, we need to send him cards, or we need to send her cards, and let them know that. Let them know that we love them, and we're excited about the decision that they made. And we're going to mail those cards to them and encourage them so that they'll keep coming and they'll start building and growing stronger. Another Christian that we will send them to is somebody that's new to the area that's a Christian. We had a family of Christians. They worshiped at a Church of Christ in another town. They moved to Coweta. We went out and we met them with the new movers deal. We mailed them cards and welcomed them to town. And they said they looked at 4 congregations. Coweta was the only one that sent them cards, so that's where they chose to place membership at. So, hey, I'm always going to take Christians. We need workers, right? We're always going to take them. So we're excited to have them as part of our congregation. And, of course, those that are wayward. We got to reach out to those that are wayward. We can bring them back, and we're doing that with a high degree of success with this new Bible study that we've got. Those that do not go on the prospect list, those that are in your congregation that are sick, those that are members of the Lord's church at another congregation, we'll send them a card. We'll write them a card, and we'll all sign one card and we'll mail it. But that's not this card ministry. That's one of the other card ministries that you have going on. So the prospect list, it needs to be a printed list, not a digital list. It gets printed on Sunday afternoon. We have to wait till Sunday afternoon because we got to add visitors to it from Sunday morning. And we have everyone ready except for the visitors that come in on Sunday. Everybody else, they know that it's their turn to go up and when they're supposed to go write the compassion cards. Here's what I would do. Who's in charge of who's in charge of these screens that we're looking at? Like, who's the man? You're the one that normally does it? Here's what I would do. I would get a list of card team A, B, and C, okay? So you got 33, 34 people on card team A, and I'm talking kids and all. I would have their name. I would say, today is card team A's turn to write cards, or however you want to write it, and I would put everybody's name on that card, adults and kids alike, and I'd have it on these screens before services start. So when people come in, they see their name up there and they're reminded, oh yeah, I gotta remember to budget 10, 12 minutes this afternoon to come in and write those cards. It's very important. I got to do that. That's what my Lord commanded me to do, and I'm going to be there. And the kids love it. They see their name up there. You better believe they're going to be in there. They love to see their name on the screen. But it's just a reminder so we know, without a doubt, I know today is my day to write cards. And that only happens every few weeks when you have 3 teams. So you got your group leader, you got your card organizers. We already talked about that. You put all the teams on a PowerPoint before you start. You got your information all. Here's what we started doing recently. We got like a cork board and get some pen tacks and some little postcards. And when you go out and knock doors, or you're talking about somebody you work with or somebody, and they say these words to you, I've been looking for a church home, or I really need to study my Bible more, or something like that. That's a very hot contact. We call it the few. And I would hang a board out here somewhere, and when you get someone like that, you write their name on it, and you pin their name to that board. And then every Sunday, I would have somebody come forward, elders, one of the men come forward, and let's say a prayer for the few. Let's pray for all of our contacts, but let's pray for our few by name. These are the people that they're right there. They're ready. I mean, they're ready for it, and we're going to pray for them by name. And in members, I would, as you walk by that board, I would just snap a picture of it before you go home. And every day when you pray, I would wake up and I would pray for the few. And then when I go to bed at night, I would pray for the few. I'd pray for all of our contacts, that their hearts would be softened, that they would be open to a Bible study. Prayer works. James 5:16. There is power in prayer, and it works. And I would start doing that. So have the information ready for the people. You announce it from the pulpit. Everybody knows that this is what we're going to do this afternoon, is write the cards. In the first week, you guys already have it. I'm not going to go through all this because you already got it set up. But here's what happens, Matt, elders. What gets pushed gets praised, and what gets praised gets pushed. So if your members are doing a good job, tell them every once in a while. I know we're not doing it for glory of us. Everything's for the glory of God. But what does it hurt to say, guys, you did a great job. We got 100 cards going out to Bob Smith this week. Fantastic job. Let's do it again next week for John Doe, right? And just encourage the congregation by doing that. And then, of course, we're going to mail them out very systematically. Now, here's some frequently asked questions. Can I write them at home? You can do it at home, but I would highly advise that you don't. If you're anything like me, I am not a responsible person. And if I get a stack of 4 or 5 cards, and I go out and I'm going to stick them in the back seat of my car, and about 3 weeks from now, I'm going to find them. They're going to be trampled on the floorboard. They're going to be slid down in the seat. I forgot to write them. I forgot to bring them back. I forgot to mail them. That defeats the purpose. 1, the people aren't getting the cards. 2, we're not being good stewards of the Lord's money. Those cards cost money, right? So we need to be good stewards of that. I would highly recommend that you fill them out here. But if you are one of those people that you're just extremely organized and extremely responsible, and you could take it home and fill it out and bring it back on Wednesday night and give it to the coordinator, then I guess that would be all right. But don't do it unless you're very, very organized. Don't mail it from home because they're being mailed very systematically. So one person needs to be in charge of that mailing to make sure a certain number of cards gets dropped in the mail every day. Again, we tell you, don't put your return address on it anymore. Just get a stamp it with the church. Sign your name in the card. Do you guys have invitation cards? I don't know if you're familiar with them because we just came out with them about a year ago. We have invitation cards. They're cheap. It's like $75 for 1,000 of them. And they have a picture of your beautiful church building on it, and it'll have a QR code that'll go to your website. It'll have your worship times and your meeting times. It has a spot on, it has your address. It has a spot on there that says invited by with a blank, and people can write their names on it. And you just bundle them up in bundles of 10 with a rubber band and hand them out to every member. And this is a great way to get contacts. When you go out to a restaurant, or when you go to the bank, or when you go to the hairdresser, or wherever you're at, you leave one of those cards. And we're seeing people being baptized. They're coming because they receive those cards. And they're very effective. When you're writing your compassion cards, drop one of them in there. Or if you don't have cards to put in there, at the very least, write on there the Woodstock Church of Christ. Because they may have maybe visited a number of places and they don't know where you're from. So if you're like me, I sign my name. Nobody can read my signature. But when I'm writing a card, I'm going to sign my name very legibly. And I'm going to put Coweta Church of Christ or Woodstock Church of Christ on the bottom of that. That way they know where the card came from. Display the cards, you lay them out on the table with your prospect list. You got the cards already stacked up. It's very easy just to come in and pick them up. You need a place, you probably already got this, but you need a place to have your cards that's organized so you can see, hey, we're getting low on visitor cards. We need to order some more to make sure they're here when the time comes to use them. Everybody from the youngest to the oldest, men, women, and children, fill them out. This is just a few reports from the field of some people that have written back to us after we've done cards. This one's Forest Hills Church of Christ, Tennessee. One family on the outreach list has a 12-year-old named JJ who is battling cancer. Some members visited them on Sunday afternoon, and the family's response to the compassion cards was nothing short of inspiring. JJ has been so encouraged by the cards that he goes to the mailbox daily looking for them. JJ's dad is in a job transition that has him at work on Sunday for now, but he plans to bring the whole family to meet the church in a matter of weeks. When he heard that the church's only goal is to follow the Bible, he made it clear that's exactly what he was trying to find. We see these results from congregations all over. This is Central Church of Christ, Alabama. The individual who reported that, listen to this, she did not need or want our help has softened our stance. Why? This happened after she began receiving compassion cards. I'll personally reach out to her this week. The door is not yet closed. This softens people's hearts. People normally are standoff. They think you're out to get something from them, right? And they're very standoffish. And what this is doing is showing them that I'm not out to get nothing from you. I'm not out to get anything from you. I just love you, and I care about you, and I want you to see that through these compassion cards. Monticello Church of Christ. This is Southeast Arkansas. This is home of some of the biggest mosquitoes in the world outside of West Texas. There's a great reason to rejoice. After Bible class Wednesday night, Nicole was baptized. She moved into town from California a year ago and has been trying to find a congregation to attend. She brought her son to our fall festival and began to visit after receiving cards for 3 weeks. After going through back to the Bible study, she put on Christ. She mentioned that she decided to visit because of all the cards that she's received. Her husband Brandon had been attending the studies. After a few visits and a fourth study of Doesn't Matter, Brandon put on Christ yesterday afternoon before our evening Bible class. So these are all examples. You know, Son said, I'll read one or two more and then we'll move on. We had 2 baptisms last week. Both are converts from denominations. They visited and received gift bags. They received, then they received 30 to 40 in the mail, follow-up visits, dinners, Bible studies, which led to a baptism. The process works. Trust the process. Trust the process. Just follow that model and do what we're teaching you, and I promise you, and I'm not saying that because it's our model. I'm saying that because it's Jesus' model. Follow the model. It's what works. I'll read one more. Covington, Tennessee. Actually, I want to skip to this one. La Plata, Maryland. A family of 5 visited whom we are sending cards due to cancer. He said the pastor of a nearby denomination, or he's the pastor of a nearby denomination, and he came by to meet the congregation and showed a fellow that they didn't know so much love and compassion. This ministry is very powerful. Thanks to your mail system, the cards did not come all at one time, but 2 or 3 cards daily for several weeks, all from different folks. The cards helped him get through the treatments and therapy. This is Eric Sykes. He's in La Plata, Maryland. And Eric, he's not a preacher. He's not an elder. He's not a deacon. He's a member that loves lost souls. And Eric works, he's a member at La Plata, but he works with about 5 congregations in that area. He goes out, we brought him on as one of our regional trainers, and he goes and he helps train congregations in that area. Eric, by himself, and he would never want me to tell you this if he was standing here, but I'm just going to tell you. Eric, by himself, has led over 50 people to Christ in the last 4 years, just by following this model. And that's not counting the people that he's trained to do it. That's him alone has baptized 50 people by doing exactly what we're talking about on this model. It works, folks. I mean, I can't tell you the congregations that are growing because they're doing just this. These are all just congregation after congregation after congregation that it's working at. Now, I want to go back for a minute to those invitation cards. And I want to tell you a very good way. And you can have them made up anywhere. I mean, you know, it's just like a business card. But we do it very, very inexpensive if you want some. But you take those cards, and here's a great way to make contacts. How many of you go out to restaurants and eat? Probably about everybody. That's the world we live in, right? Jamie and I eat out every day. We're on the road 220 nights a year. You would think when we go home, we would eat at home, but we don't. We eat out because we're only home 2 or 3 days. And we don't have time to go buy groceries and all that. So we get home, we just go eat out. We eat out almost every meal all year long, other than just a very few. And so we get contact cards. So I'm going to go into a restaurant, and the server, and I noticed you did this last night when we ate, Matt. You did this very thing. This waitress comes over. She's a great server. She comes over and she says, "Hi, my name is so-and-so," and I apologize, I don't remember her name. She said, "My name is such and such, and I'm going to be serving y'all tonight." And Matt looked her right in the eye and he said, by name, "Thank you, Sally." Let's just call her Sally. He said, "Thank you, Sally," and he acknowledged her by her name. That's important. People want to be acknowledged. They don't want to just be another server or just another person that you deal with. Call them by name. Acknowledge them by name, and that's what he did with her. So, what we'll do a lot of times is we'll go out and we'll call them by name. "Sally, thank you. We're excited that you're serving us tonight." And she said, "Can I take your drink order?" "Yeah, we'll take 6 gallons of Diet Coke, and I'll take an unsweet tea," right? And so you think I'm lying. They saw it last night, didn't they? It might have been 5.5 gallons, but it was a lot of Diet Coke. When they bring you the pitcher and set it down on the table, you're heavy on the Diet Coke. So anyway, she said, we'll order our drink, and she'll go get the drink. When she comes back and sits our drink down, here's what I would do. I would say, "Sally, we're going to have a prayer in a minute. We prayed before we eat, and we're going to have a prayer in just a minute. And I was just wondering, is there anything that we could pray for you, maybe or a family member or somebody you know that might be struggling? Do you know somebody that we could pray for?" Now, a lot of times if it's a man server, they're going to say, "Nah, I can't think of anything. I'm good." And say, "That's all right." But a lot of women, you'll be shocked. I mean, their husbands are idiots. Their kids are acting like wild people. Their boss has worked them 6 doubles in a row. Their whole life is caving down around them, and they can use some prayer. And so she's going to tell us whatever it is that's going on, and I'm going to say, "Well, Sally, if you got, I know you're busy. We're not going to keep you long, but if you got just a minute, let's just have a prayer real quick." And I'm going to pray right then with her. And I'm not going to pray about everything under the sun. I'm going to keep it very relevant to her needs. And I'm just going to pray for her. I'm going to thank God for the food, and I'm going to thank Him for Sally, and I'm going to pray for whatever Sally needs. And then I'm going to end it, because she's got 8 other tables she's waiting on, right? Then, when I'm done eating, I'm going to leave an invitation card, and I'm going to leave a good tip. Now listen, if you're not going to leave a good tip, don't leave the invitation card, because we don't want them getting bad at the Woodstock Church of Christ, right? But I'm going to leave a good tip. I'm going to leave an invitation card, and I'm going to ask Sally. I'm going to say, "So, Sally, do you work every Friday night? Are you here most Friday nights?" "Oh yeah, I'm off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays." "Okay, I'm going to register that in my mind. I'm coming back here next week, and I'm going to eat again. And when I come back next week and eat, I'm going to ask, when I go up to the host stand, I'm going to say, 'Can I sit in Sally's section?' And then when I go over and sit down, I'm going to say, 'Hey, Sally, remember us? We were here last week.' And I'm going to start a conversation. What am I doing? I'm building a relationship with her. And eventually, over 2 or 3 times of doing that, I'm going to find out if somebody that's in her family could use some cards, or maybe I'm going to see if I can get her mailing address. I'm going to say, we attend a card writing congregation, and I know you're hard at work and you got some things going on. We prayed about it last week, and we'd love to send you some cards just to cheer you up. Would that be okay?" And I'm going to get her name and address. I'm going to start mailing her cards, and I'm going to transition that into a Bible study. I'm going to tell you some transition questions in just a little bit in the next session. I'm going to give you some introductory questions, and I'm going to give you some transition questions. They will make all the difference in the world in getting somebody into a Bible study. So we have all these different ways that we can come up with contacts. We have all these different ways that we could prospect. Compassion card is a big part of it. Does anybody in here right now that you're all on the compassion card team, does anybody in here have questions about how this plays out? Any of the stuff we talked about? If you have a question, you can email me, you can call me, you can get my phone number. Jamie knows I leave my phone on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When I go to bed at night, it sits right on the table by my head, wherever I'm at. There's a table by my head, and it sits right there. And I get calls at 2 in the morning sometimes from people. People can't sleep, something's on their mind, they call or whatever, and that doesn't bother me. I'm happy to get calls. I'm happy to visit with you at any time. If I'm in a seminar and I don't answer, I promise you I'll call you back or return your text or your email just as quick as I can. We're here to help you grow. We don't come to do gospel meetings. I've done 2 gospel meetings this year. I got 1 gospel meeting on the record for next year. We're booked up almost all of next year. We're booked up into October, and I got 1 gospel meeting. Everything else that we do is this right here. We're training. So we're not coming to just talk and leave and never think of you again. We want to be a part of this congregation. We want to help you to grow. We want to advise you. Ladies, if you need help on what you can do in evangelism, my wife teaches that. When we do a seminar, she takes the ladies and she teaches them what they can do in evangelism. Evangelism does not happen without the ladies. You have a huge role in it. So if you want her number and call her and visit with her about it, she can give you some ideas. You know, whatever we can do to help this congregation grow, because ultimately we all have the same goal, and that's the growth of the kingdom. So we want to help you in any way that we can. I appreciate your time. Let's have a good lunch, and let's come back in here afterward about 1 o'clock-ish, and we're going to have one more session. Now, in this next session, it's going to be about Bible studies. And listen, I know that not all of you are going to be teachers. That's not going to be your role. But we've already talked about, in order to have a Bible study, you got to build a relationship with somebody. And if you've got a family member or if you've got a friend that you've already got a great relationship with, it makes more sense for you to do the study than it does for your elders or your preacher to have to build a relationship and then do the study. So I want to show you how easy it is. I want to show you how anybody can do it. I want to take away any concerns or fears that you have about a Bible study in this next session. Please stick around for it, and let's talk about how we can lead lost souls to Christ. Thank you.